My mom lied to me and my real dad just showed up for the first time. Sorry if this is incoherent, but my mind is racing right now. My dad died when I was 8 years old. Well, the man I thought was my dad did. My mom dated other men, but she's never remarried or had a serious live-in boyfriend since, so I've basically been without a dad since I was 8. But earlier today this man came into my work. I work at a movie theater in the concession stand BTW. So this man came in and kept letting people go ahead of him in line until I was done helping the customer I was with. I didn't think anything at first, but this guy was kinda nervous but trying to talk to me. He asked what I recommended to eat and asked what kind of movies I liked. He seemed friendly but shy, and I was just being polite and making conversation like we're supposed to do with customers. Anyway, he paid and left, and I didn't see him when his movie finished cause it was busy. Or maybe he didn't even watch a movie. Anyway, I got off work a little bit ago, and when I got home that same man was in my living room talking to my mom, and it kinda creeped me out, and my mom started panicking when I asked who he was. And she just kept saying he's no one, he's leaving. But the man said he wasn't leaving until we talked and said she needs to tell me the truth. Well, you can guess from the title, he said he's my dad. I just felt this twist in my stomach. My mom started rambling, saying my dad that died was my real dad and how much he loved me and took care of me, and that this doesn't change that. The thing is, something happened last year that made me question my mom about my dad and my medical history. She said she didn't know anything about it, but today I just yelled at her that she could have told me then and there that he wasn't my biological father, but she didn't. I asked if this man was telling the truth and she just started crying and nodding. I guess I didn't notice at the theater because it was never something I would even think of, but looking at him it's pretty clear we're related since he looks so much like me. Or I guess I look like him is more accurate. He tried to talk to me and swore he never knew I existed or he would have been in my life. My mom didn't deny any of this. I asked her if this man was dangerous or an abusive ex or something. He was offended and she assured me it wasn't that at all. She wanted to sit down and talk, but I just felt so nauseous and overwhelmed, so I just grabbed my keys and told my mom I was staying at my best friend Josh's house for the night. I came here and Josh was sympathetic and let me vent, but he fell asleep, and now I'm just here awake and my brain won't shut off. I feel so betrayed by my mom. How could she not tell me the truth? When I was little I understand, but I'm old enough to know where I come from. It feels so unfair that she denied me a father for half my life. I loved my dad that died, and I still miss him, but I've wanted a father for so long. There's so much I've gone through where I feel like having a dad would have been so much better and easier. I love my mom and she's been incredible in raising me, but it's not the same as having a dad. Especially when this guy is my actual dad and it seems like he would have been there if he knew. What to say to him, or to my mom. I know I have to go home eventually, but I just don't know what I'm supposed to say or do. He probably hates me and thinks I'm a crybaby because I cried and stormed out. I feel lost. Update: I know I didn't reply to any comments after the first few hours that my original post was up. I woke up the next morning and saw a bunch of new comments. Though I didn't reply, I did read all of them, good and bad. I appreciate all the advice given and kind words spoken. But like many people suggested, the only thing I could really do was talk to both of them to figure out what the real story was. So I went home and talked to my mom. I was much calmer with a clearer head and was ready to hear what she had to say. I probably learned more than anyone should ever have to about their own conception. Turns out my father really isn't an abusive ex. My mom didn't cheat on my adoptive dad or anything shady like that. I'm just the product of a one-night stand. My mom said she went out drinking by herself at a bar and met my dad, who was celebrating his 25th birthday alone. She said she had just been dumped by her fiancé a week before that because she had learned from her doctor that it was virtually impossible for her to have children naturally. She said her and my dad used a condom, and yet somehow she still got pregnant with me, and I'm her miracle baby considering the circumstances. She went back to the hotel that he took her to after she found out she was pregnant, but they couldn't find any info on my dad ever staying there. He didn't give her his actual first name. She said this was before social media was a thing, so she couldn't just search him online like we can do nowadays. So she decided she would just raise me on her own. She also admitted she panicked when my bio dad showed up because to her he was literally just a guy she knew for one night 17 years ago. She didn't really know who he was now, or if he was going to try to get custody of me, or if I was gonna want to run away with him or something. She admits she could have been calmer from the beginning, and maybe we could have all talked and sorted it out that night, but I don't blame her for it. As for my adoptive dad, she said she didn't meet him until I was almost 2. They got married when I was 3. He officially adopted me after they got married. She showed me the adoption certificate. Reflecting on it now, I realize I've never seen pictures of he and I when I was a baby. Just pictures of me as a toddler and up. She said he accepted me as his own and loved me and being a father to me. I told her my bio dad showing up doesn't rewrite history. I'll never not see my adoptive dad as my father. If anything, it makes me love him even more that he treated and loved me as his own flesh and blood. I also ended up talking to my dad. He left his number, which my mom gave to me. We met up for lunch. He confirmed my mom's whole story. I gave him shit about using a fake name. It wasn't so cut and dry. He said he goes by his middle name, which is what he told her that night. He showed me his business card, which does have the name he told my mom that night. And I've since looked him up, and his entire online presence uses his middle name. He has comments on his Facebook from friends and family calling him that name going back years. Apparently, he only goes by his actual first name for legal and business reasons ... like checking into a hotel. He said that night he was depressed that his best friend didn't live to celebrate their 25th birthday together, and that's why he drove to our town to get away from everyone and everything back home for a night. He apologized a million times and said he would have been in my life if he had known, especially because I inherited a medical condition from him, and it really sucked dealing with that and having to learn to adjust to it alone. He was diagnosed with it when he was 19, so he knew what I went through. I could tell he genuinely felt awful about it. I asked him how he even found out about me, and apparently he has a son who is only 5 months younger than me. So his ex-wife is a teacher, and she saw a picture that my school's website posted of the academic team I'm on. She had sent it to my dad thinking I might be related to him cause we look so alike. He said he has a brother he hasn't spoken to in over 20 years, so they both initially thought I could be his nephew, but he found my Instagram, and he said when he saw a picture of me and my mom on it, he instantly recognized her and he knew I was his. And I know people will ask, but no, he did not cheat on his ex-wife with my mom. He didn't meet her until a couple months after the night with my mom. He even admitted they only got married because she got pregnant early in the relationship, and they're divorced now because they're not actually compatible. He offered proof and to even call her himself right there to confirm, but I told him it wasn't necessary. He had visited my mom earlier the day that he visited me at work and confirmed with her, even though he already knew between my face and the math lining up. But he said he went to the theater anyway because even though he had seen pictures of me, he said he had to see me for himself in person. He said we still need to do a DNA test to establish paternity, and so he can add me on his insurance. But between our faces, my birth date, and us having the same rare medical condition, it's obvious he's my dad. Even the waitress made a nonchalant comment about us being father and son. He asked if we could start having visits to get to know each other, and of course I said yes. I want to know him, even though I still feel some anger at him, and I don't really even know why exactly, TBH. I want to have him in my life. My mom said I can't go to his house for Christmas or even at all until she feels comfortable with me leaving to visit him. But she said he can come visit on Christmas night and we'd go from there. At the end of lunch, I brought out my debit card to pay my half of the meal. I didn't really know what the etiquette is for a first lunch with a bio parent as a teenager. He just laughed and said I'm his son and I don't ever have to pay for anything when I'm with him. Ike, why? But that made me feel really good. And then he made a joke about owing my mom 17 years of child support anyway, which really just eased the whole situation. He walked with me to my car and gave me a hug, which made me start crying. I know it's cringy and I was embarrassed that I was crying in the middle of a diner parking lot, but I just felt an instant connection to him when he hugged me, even though he's still basically a stranger to me. He said some stuff to me while he was hugging me and just let me cry for a couple minutes. It's still early, I know, but I can just tell he's a good man, regardless of who he was when he met my mom and whatever happened that night. I mean, he sought me out after learning about me, so that has to count for something, right? He could have pretended he never saw my Instagram, or even after talking to my mom and her sending him away, or after meeting me at the movie theater, or after I stormed out when he came to talk that same night. He had so many chances to walk away, but he didn't give up. That shows me that he really does want to have a relationship with me. Anyway, now my issue is scrambling to find him a last-minute Christmas present. I have no idea what to get him. He's a lawyer, so from what I could tell from Googling him and the address he gave me, he's rich. He probably has everything he already wants. If anyone has any ideas what a man in his early 40s would want or be able to make use of as a Christmas gift, I'd love some suggestions. Update 2. Hi everyone. I wasn't really planning on posting another update, but people have asked and messaged me wanting to know what happened on Christmas. I'll try to keep this one briefer than my last post. In short, it was the best Christmas I've had in years, and I just want to thank this sub for the advice on the photo album gift. It was honestly the perfect gift. So my dad ended up FaceTiming me on Christmas morning while he was at his parents' house. He had told them about me the night before and they didn't want to wait to meet me, so we video chatted for a little bit. They seem like really nice people. They just kept complimenting me, my academic achievements, and saying how I look so much like my dad when he was my age. They want to meet me soon, but they live a few hours away, so it will take some time to set something up. I also very briefly talked to my half-brother on the same call. Our dad kind of put us on the spot. I think he was just excited for us to meet. We said hi and I said Merry Christmas and he said it back, and then he told our dad, I don't know what else you want me to say before walking away, so ... yeah, not the introduction I was imagining. But he and I are set to meet in person on New Year's Eve, so I'm hoping that meeting goes a lot better. My dad showed up alone on Christmas night and brought 2 huge boxes of Christmas gifts. He bought me a ton of clothes and shoes, practically a new wardrobe. And I can actually see myself wearing most of the stuff he bought. He also got me an iPad Pro and a gaming PC. He said he wanted to get me a PS5, but they're notoriously hard to get, so he's gonna keep an eye out and grab me one as soon as he can. Honestly, I'm surprised he was able to get me as much as he did, considering we made the plan the week before Christmas. He also bought my mom a few things which I think really surprised her, but she was very grateful. I actually felt really bad that I only got him one gift in comparison, but thankfully he really liked it. I thought he didn't at first because he started crying looking at all the pictures of me and started apologizing again, saying he was sorry he was never there. But he did say he loved it and it was a very thoughtful gift. He especially loved that I made a page for our first Christmas photo, and then I asked if we could fill out the rest of the album together. Also, I did include one page of pictures of me and my adoptive dad. I didn't want the album to be full of pictures of my adoptive dad so as not to seem insensitive, but I also wanted my bio dad to know he was an important part of my life. After that, we just spent the night talking, setting up my new PC and watching It's a Wonderful Life. Before I told him that it was my favorite, he said it was in his top 3 Christmas movies, but now it's his favorite too because we watched it together. It got really late, so my mom let him stay in the guest room so he didn't have to drive back home in the dark and rainy weather. He treated us to breakfast the next morning and invited us to stay at his house for New Year's Eve, which surprisingly my mom said we can go. One final note, a few comments told me that my adoptive dad was and will always be my dad too, and I agree 100%. A couple days ago I went to the cemetery to visit his grave and talk to him. This is the first time I've ever gone there alone. Truthfully, I don't know if I really believe in heaven or the afterlife, but on the off chance that he is out there somewhere watching over us, I wanted him to know that no matter how close I may get with bio dad, he will never replace my adoptive dad in my heart. So that's about it. I'm meeting my half-brother in person in a couple days, and hopefully my paternal grandparents soon after. Also, we're getting the paternity test done on Monday, but that really is just a formality at this point. Thank you again for all the advice on both my previous posts. I hope you all had a great Christmas and have a happy new year. Update 3. My half-brother hates me. Just wanna preface this by saying that the majority of this was written on New Year's Day, so sorry if I come off as a jerk. I was just really upset that day. I didn't post it until now because I went back and forth on whether or not it would even matter. I didn't post it on the advice subreddit because I just don't see a point in asking for advice considering how the night went. I don't know if anyone will even see this. I was told to post this on my own profile, and I think I've done it correctly. With that being said, New Year's Eve sucked. I thought I was prepared to meet my half-brother. A lot of people told me to go in with low expectations, be patient, don't expect him to warm up to me right away. And I was ready for that. I was ready for him to maybe be too shy to talk, or be uninterested and avoid me, or just be on his guard and keep interaction to a minimum. I was ready for so many unfortunate but understandable scenarios. What I was not ready for was for him to hate me before I even walked through the door. Me, my mom, and my best friend Josh got to their house around 8 at night. My dad was happy to see us. Then he introduced us to my half-brother Ryan. The first thing Ryan said to me was, "You're shorter in person," which I don't even know if he'd seen very many pictures of me, but I'm 5'11", so I'm not exactly short, and he and I were about eye level, so it was kind of a weird thing to say. But I work in customer service, so I'm used to letting snide comments roll off my back. I just laughed it off and made a comment about how I'm hoping to gain a few more inches of height before I stop growing. Dad gave us the house tour and his house is insane. I knew he was well off, and I'm not sure if this is considered a rich house by most people's standards, but he has 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. There's a whole office that looks more like a mini library, and Ryan has a huge game room. It blew my mind. He even offered me my choice of the 3 guest rooms to be my own room for when I visit. Ryan rolled his eyes and let out a not at all subtle huff. Me and Josh gave each other a WTF look cause it was honestly unnecessary. The night went on and we were all talking in the living room. Ryan just sat on an armchair looking pissed off the whole time. Our dad was trying to get a conversation going between Ryan and I with multiple different topics, and I was trying to engage in a conversation with Ryan, but he limited most of his answers to yes, no, and I don't know. He was nicer to my mom when she asked him things, which I at least appreciate that, because if he would have been rude to her, I know I wouldn't have been able to hold myself back from saying something. At one point my dad told Ryan to help Josh bring over a few food platters from the kitchen. My mom took the opportunity to ask my dad if he had even asked Ryan how he felt about us coming over. My dad said he did ask Ryan twice, and both times Ryan said it was fine. He was clearly embarrassed about how Ryan was acting, but he said it's probably just weird for him and he'll talk to him and that Ryan just needs more time. I asked Ryan if we could play some games in his game room cause it really is a cool looking room. He made an excuse about not wanting to mess up his save files on his games. I was just thinking you can obviously make separate save files and delete them afterwards. But again, for whatever reason, I just made an excuse for him, saying I understood. But our dad told him to show us the room, so we went to the game room while my mom and dad hung out in the living room, which is adjacent. Ryan booted up one of his games and was playing single player. He didn't offer to let us join, and at this point in the night Josh and I didn't even bother asking cause it was obvious he would make an excuse to not let us play. I did ask him what game he was playing and what it was about because it did look like a fun game. He told me it's hard to explain and it would probably be easier to just Google it. Josh just let out this stifled laughter, which just made me laugh too because it was honestly ridiculous. Ryan was being rude at every opportunity without fail. I know that probably makes us sound like assholes, but at this point in the night all we could do was laugh because it was a situation that just kept getting more and more bizarre. I think we were both just sitting there wondering if this guy was serious. He asked what was so funny and I just lied and said we remembered something funny that happened at school a few weeks ago. Thankfully he didn't ask for specifics, although I'm pretty sure even if he did believe me he didn't care enough to ask anything about my life. Josh and I went back to the living room and I asked my dad if it was cool if we checked out my room again. He said of course, but asked about Ryan. I had to awkwardly tell him I think we needed a little bit of space at the moment, which he understood. So Josh and I went to the room and just hung out there ourselves until about 11:30 when my mom and dad called all of us to the living room. They must have strategized while we were all away because they sat us down and tried to get us to talk and address the situation. Ryan just kind of shut down and wouldn't really answer anything. He just looked annoyed. Our dad asked him if there was anything we could do to make things more comfortable for him, and Ryan just straight up said us leaving would help. Our dad said that obviously that wasn't going to happen considering how late it was and the entire point was to celebrate New Year's together. So Ryan said fine, if we wouldn't leave then he would. And he walked out the front door. It was about 10 minutes to midnight at that point. So our dad follows him out to stop him. And they got into a huge argument on the front porch. It was so incredibly awkward. I can't even begin to properly describe it. My mom was frantically looking for the TV remote to turn the volume up to drown out the sound. I couldn't hear everything they were saying, but I heard bits and pieces. My dad was upset, saying he asked Ryan if it was okay if we came over and he said it was fine twice. Ryan shouted that he changed his mind. Dad said that's okay, but we were already here and the least he can do is be cordial and try to make the best of it. At one point Ryan shouted that we're not family and I'm not his brother, which I admit that really stung. It's weird because I had already decided hours before that I didn't like him, but for some reason it still hurt hearing him say that. Ryan said we haven't even taken the test yet and Dad was already just inviting me to their holiday celebrations. I think Ryan is the only one who thinks that the test is gonna be negative. My mom finally got the TV on full blast. The three of us kind of awkwardly counted down the last 5 seconds and quietly wished each other a happy new year. I was trying to keep it together, but it all kind of sunk in that my idea of what the night would be just fell apart. The whole reason we were there was to ring in the new year with my dad and half-brother, but neither of them were even there. I wish I would have just stayed home. About 5 minutes after midnight Ryan came back inside. Didn't say a word. He just quickly walked upstairs to his room. My dad came up to us and apologized profusely and said he thinks Ryan needs more time to come around. He did hug me for the longest time, apologizing again. I wanted to tell him that I hated Ryan. I wanted to say that he was rude and immature, that we are clearly two very different people, because I would never in a million years be as disrespectful as he was to us, to a guest in my mother's home. But I just felt so bad for my dad, who must have been in such a difficult position. It was like when he was hugging me to comfort me, he needed support too. So instead I just said that I understood. He said he was grateful to me for being so patient. But the truth is I was angry. I wanted to go home. But thankfully everyone was pretty tired and we all called it a night. The next morning my dad made us all breakfast. Ryan was up in his room the whole time. My dad went to check on him but came back down saying he was still asleep. Ike, if that's actually true or not. I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan was just refusing to come down and have breakfast with us. So breakfast was actually great. We all avoided talking about the night before and just had a nice conversation. Josh and my dad got along really well, which was awesome because Josh is my chosen brother. We've been through a lot together. After breakfast we left. Ryan never came down from his room, and the truth is I was completely fine with that. My dad apologized again and said he'd see me on Monday after school to finally take the paternity test. On the ride back home my mom kind of broke the silence saying, "Caleb, I'm not so sure about what the results of that test will be anymore because your brother's kind of an asshole." And me and Josh just started dying of laughter. It was even funnier because the whole ride over there she kept drilling it into my head to be nice and not expect him to like me right away. And Josh was saying he was so surprised I didn't punch him in the face at some point. I know that probably makes us seem awful, but it felt so good to have people that love me have my back and agree that it wasn't just me being crazy or oversensitive. Ryan took it up to 100 and stayed there the whole night. I didn't even realize it until then, but it was like the whole time we were there I was holding my breath, and on the ride back I felt like I could finally breathe again. I thought that was the end of it, but I got a text message from Ryan later that day. He never replied. Maybe I took too long to reply. Josh and I were playing basketball at the time, so I didn't have my phone on me. Or maybe he didn't like that I wrote too much back. I tend to write a lot if that wasn't obvious by now. Either way, it doesn't seem like Ryan cares to hang out with me. So yeah, not at all what I was expecting. I debated even posting this because so many people seemed happy about my last couple posts. I thought maybe it would be better for people to think we met and everything was perfect. But that's not reality. I really wanted it to work. I don't even know where to go from here. After school today I drove to the city and met up with my dad to take the DNA test. It's done. Up until now I've been 100% confident on what the results will be, but now I'm second guessing everything. Like, what if I'm not actually his kid? What if I just wasted his time and his money the last few weeks? My mom says there is no possible way he's not my dad because he was the only guy she was with during the time she got pregnant with me. And I believe her, but I still feel this uneasiness in my stomach. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. He paid extra for the rapid results, so we'll know for sure within 2 days. Maybe it doesn't even matter at this point. Ryan seems determined to not let me be a part of their family. I'm sorry that this wasn't a happy update. I really wanted it to be. Update 4. My dad FaceTimed me from his car yesterday afternoon. He said he'd just gotten off work and he got the DNA results. My stomach was in knots because I couldn't really get a read on his face, but then he just smiled and said, "You're mine, kiddo." I just felt this huge wave of happiness and relief wash over me. I was so sure he was my dad until after we took the test and doubt and fear started creeping in. But now that it's been officially confirmed with a blood test, I'm so freaking happy. I have a dad again. After he told me, he actually showed up at the front door. He wasn't really at work when he FaceTimed me. He had gotten the results a few hours before and he wanted to celebrate in person, so when he called me he'd actually just been sitting outside my house in his car. Him and my mom planned the whole thing out. He brought a cake and a little balloon that said "it's a boy" on it, which was pretty hilarious. Hahaha. I was on cloud 9 all night. We called my grandparents to tell them and they were really happy for us too. My dad and I decided that we're gonna go visit them next weekend since I have a 3-day weekend. Kinda nervous about that, especially because I'll be so far away from home, but they seem really great, and just as excited as I am to meet, so I'm hoping for the best. Sorry if I seem bipolar with my posts. It's just been a roller coaster with ups and downs, but for right now I'm beyond ecstatic. I can't stop looking at the picture of the results. Update 5. I split this post into 2 because it was just too much writing. I really need to work on condensing things, I know. I'll probably post the second half tomorrow, but in short, the trip didn't turn out as well as I'd hoped, but my grandparents are amazing, lovely people. I finally got to meet my grandparents this past weekend. We had the plan set that my dad and I would leave on Saturday morning and come back Monday afternoon. Unfortunately, my dad had a work crisis come up and he called me on Friday afternoon to tell me he wouldn't be able to go. I was so bummed and I know he felt really guilty, but at the same time I really wanted to meet my grandparents and I already scheduled the days off at work, so I kind of had my weekend planned around going. I consider myself an independent person, so I didn't mind going by myself, even though I obviously would have preferred my dad to be there. My mom on the other hand felt differently. She didn't want me to drive that far away on my own. So we compromised and she said if Josh goes with me I can go. And as soon as Josh heard they live right by a lake he was in. Haha. I called my grandparents and they said they would love if I still came and that Josh was more than welcome to come along. So he and I drove over on Saturday, and when we got there I was nervous as hell. We knocked, and when they came to answer the door I instantly recognized them from our FaceTime call on Christmas. But for some reason my brain shut down for a second and I stupidly asked if they were, and they both laughed, and my grandpa said, "Don't you dare call us by our first names. You call us grandpa and grandma." And my grandma chimed in saying Josh better call them the same because they don't have enough grandkids, and now they have 2 more. I loved them right then and there. It was just such a breath of fresh air after the meeting with Ryan. We went inside, set our bags down, and had lunch. My grandma made sandwiches and we all just talked about our lives for a couple hours. My favorite part was hearing about their lives, how they met, what their parents were like. It's like this whole other side of my family tree just opened up, and I'm learning so much about where I come from. I could have listened to their stories all day, TBH. They showed me a bunch of pictures of my dad as well. TBH, I thought they were just being kind and trying to make me feel welcomed when they kept telling me how much I look like him in his youth. But then I saw the pictures of him as a teenager and I understood what they meant. It literally looked like it could be pictures of me if I was wearing 90 Seconds clothes and had a bad haircut. Me and Josh were both shocked at how strong the resemblance is. Later in the day my grandma wanted to make a pie for dessert. She said she loves to bake and we were celebrating, so she offered to teach us her family recipe for cherry pie. As we were finishing up with the pie we were surprised to see my dad show up. He said the work issue got resolved a lot easier than he thought it would, so he headed straight over there. I was thrilled, until I saw Ryan walk through the door shortly after him. I was confused because my dad said that was his mom's weekend. I discreetly asked about it while Ryan was saying hi to our grandparents, and he just said it didn't work out, whatever that means. I didn't post about it, but I did go over to my dad's house for dinner last week. It was nowhere near as bad as New Year's Eve, but Ryan still didn't really talk to me. There was one moment where I thought he and I had something to connect on, but he shut it down pretty quickly. So when I saw Ryan walk through the door I was a bit concerned because he just doesn't like me and he makes it pretty obvious. Despite that, the first hour and a half were fine. Ryan did say hi to me. Well, to be more accurate, he said "Sup pretty boy," which was kind of annoying because that seems to be the name he's decided for me. I don't understand it or like it. I mean, yeah, I like to dress nice and take care of myself, but I'm not wearing makeup or spending hours in front of a mirror. But I just let it go and said hi. Josh and Ryan greeted each other. All was good. Ryan was just talking to our grandparents and my dad. He didn't talk to me or Josh other than saying hi, but that was fine. But then my grandma's timer went off for the pie, so I followed her to the kitchen and offered to take the pie out. Ryan followed us and he made a comment about how I'm trying to come off as Mr. Nice Guy. It didn't even make sense. The oven is low to the ground and she's an older woman, so why wouldn't I offer to get it for her so she doesn't have to bend down? To me, that's just common courtesy. I wasn't trying to put on an act. I would do the same thing for my maternal grandma. But I just asked him to please not start with that because I just came to have a good weekend. He started to argue, but our grandma told him to knock it off and not to start a fight in her house. He said sorry to her and walked out of the kitchen. Oh man, I wanted to hug her and kiss her on the cheek. I thought finally, there is an adult who sees how he acts, calls him out on it and shuts it down instead of babying him. Granted, she did ask me to be patient because this is probably really hard for him to come to terms with, that he's not the only child or grandson anymore. I told her I'm completely fine with giving Ryan time and space. I just hate that he acts so unnecessarily rude. We were all having a good time, so why does he have to try to start drama just because I offered to take a pie out of the oven, you know? Anyway, so the rest of the night was fine. Ryan kind of shut down and was mostly quiet. My dad did pull him aside and talk to him at one point. Like what was said, but Ryan was more talkative to our grandparents after that. More specifically, he started recounting the greatest hits of his relationship with our grandparents. I think he was doing it on purpose, but maybe I'm just pessimistic. Either way, I ignored it and we had a really great night. The pie was absolutely delicious, BTW. There was a minor issue when it came time to assign sleeping arrangements. They only have 2 extra rooms in their house, so originally it was gonna be me and my dad each having our own room. But we went from 2 to 4 with Josh and Ryan added in. So my grandma suggested my dad take one room and me, Josh, and Ryan take the other. And I was just thinking, there is no way I'm staying in a room with Ryan overnight. I don't think either one of us would be comfortable with that. Josh and I told them we were fine sleeping on the couches in the living room, so Ryan and my dad could have the rooms, but none of the adults were having it. So finally Ryan suggested he and our dad share a room and Josh and I take the other, which I thought was a good compromise, and TBH, I thought was really cool of Ryan to willingly give up the room. Josh and I were talking that night and we agreed hopefully that was a sign that things were looking up with him. We were wrong. Update 6. I just want to add a few quick notes on my last post. A few people messaged me about Ryan's pretty boy comment. I truly don't think he meant it in any sort of creepy or homophobic way. Josh and I are just best friends, more like brothers. I think Ryan calls me that as a way to try to emasculate me. And when I said I try to take care of myself, I just meant I try to keep my skin clear and have my hair neat so it doesn't look sloppy. I don't think that makes me a pretty boy, but apparently Ryan does. I know a handful of people said that I shouldn't have brought Josh to Nye as it might have been too much for Ryan to handle. So I just want to give a reminder that Josh was only with me this past weekend because I was going to be alone at first. Even if I wasn't, Ryan was never supposed to be there. I'm still not sure what happened with his mom that caused him to join the trip last minute, but please keep that in mind as you read this post. So the next day we got up and went down to the lake. My grandpa showed us this little area nearby that has like an obstacle course kind of thing. I don't really know how to explain it. It's kind of what I would expect they use to train people in the military. It has balance beams, monkey bars, a tire section you have to hop through, etc. But anyway, he suggested that me, Ryan, and Josh run the course. Me and Josh were down, but Ryan said no because he's done it a million times already. We still tried to get him to do it with us. Josh even asked Ryan if he could walk us through it, but he insisted on not doing it. Josh and I usually have friendly competitions with everything, so we made a friendly wager to see who could finish the course faster. So during it we were taunting each other, like when I was ahead I would turn around and give him shit. And then at the top of the climbing wall he started doing a weird dance. It was hilarious to us. But of course when we were done, Ryan made a comment asking what the point of doing it was if we weren't gonna take it seriously. Josh told him we're not training for the Olympics, we're just having fun. We went down to the lake, which was an incredible sight. The view there is amazing. So we got into swim and there's a swing we kept jumping into the water from. It was a blast. Josh and I both tried to get Ryan to join us several times, but he refused when we asked. He refused when my grandpa and dad encouraged him. He just wanted to do his own thing. After a while my grandma called us back to the house because she made lunch. So we went and ate. Everything was fine at lunch. Afterwards we're all standing outside on the front porch and my grandpa started asking about sports, which I only play basketball, but Josh is an all-around athlete, so he and my grandpa started talking about all the sports he plays, and apparently that pissed Ryan off because he made another rude comment asking if athlete was Josh's only personality trait. Josh told him to chill and stop trying to start problems all the time. And then Ryan shouted back asking why Josh kept calling him grandpa. And then Ryan doubled down by asking why Josh was even there because he's not family, and he asked why don't you go hang out with your own grandpa. I felt the whole world stop at that moment. Josh's paternal grandfather died last year and Josh took it very, very hard. He loved his grandpa more than anyone. He was closer to his grandpa than his actual dad. To be fair to Ryan, he did not know. There's no way he could have known, so I know he didn't purposely say it to be cruel or hurtful. But in that moment it didn't matter to Josh. He lunged at him and I had to hold him back, trying my hardest to get through to him that Ryan doesn't know what he said. I was practically begging him to take a walk with me to the lake, and everyone else is just standing there looking confused and probably a bit scared because Josh looked like he wanted to murder Ryan. Josh is a guy's guy. He's friends with everyone, not a mean bone in his body, never starts fights with anyone. But when Ryan said that, I saw a completely different side of him. He was furious. I've seen him mad before, but never like that. I know it hurt me when Ryan said what he said because I cared about Josh's grandpa too, but I can't even imagine what it felt like for Josh. They took Ryan into the house and I managed to convince Josh to take a walk down to the lake with me. My dad asked what happened and I told him to just give us a few minutes and to keep Ryan inside. Josh ended up punching a tree on the way to the lake. I want to reiterate that he's not a violent or angry person because I know that sounds bad. Ryan just hit the one nerve that caused him to completely lose his cool. I was actually grateful that he hit a tree instead of Ryan, and I know he only walked away as a favor to me because he was livid. We got to the lake and sat down at a bench and Josh just broke down. I hated seeing him like that. He's the nicest guy in the world. He doesn't deserve that kind of pain. He said Ryan just runs his mouth and says whatever he wants and nobody ever does shit about it. I can't exactly blame him. I'm frustrated about the way Ryan acts too. So we decided it was time to go back home. There was no way we were surviving another 24 hours there. My dad and grandpa eventually came up to sit with us and we explained why Josh got so angry. He apologized to both of them, but thankfully they completely understood. They did try to convince us to stay, but I was pretty adamant that it was time to go. I wasn't going to let Josh have to sit through another day there, and I certainly wasn't going to let him drive back home alone. So we went back to the house. I went in and quickly grabbed all of our stuff while Josh waited outside with my dad. My grandma was really upset that we were leaving, and I felt really bad that this was her first impression of me. I apologized and essentially begged her to not think that this is who me and Josh are. We're good kids. We don't fly off the handle and start shit all the time. It was just a really horrible set of circumstances. I guess at some point while I was packing, someone must have told Ryan what happened, because on my way out he stopped me and said he was sorry. But obviously he didn't know about Josh's grandpa, or he would never have said that. Which I do believe, because he did look genuinely uncomfortable talking to me about it. He said his grandma said he has to apologize to Josh before we left, and I said I would tell Josh on his behalf. But there's no way Josh wanted to see him right now. I did want to lay into him at that moment about him just being a jackass all the time, but I'm not one to kick someone when they're down, and his face did look like he felt like crap already. My dad was really upset about the whole thing, and I told him that I love him and I want to be a part of his family, but if he wants me in his life, he needs to get Ryan under control because his smart mouth has gotten old very fast. He said he understood and to not worry about it because he was gonna figure it out. I did apologize later because I know I shouldn't have talked to him like that, but I was just mad at the whole thing at that point. Josh and I left, and about halfway through the ride back home he was back to normal. But when we got back to my house, my mom was pissed off when she found out what happened. Josh is like a second son to her, so she was pretty angry about the whole thing. In hindsight, we should have just went back to Josh's house and stayed there for the day, or just said one of us was feeling sick or something, and that's why we left early. Thankfully I convinced her not to call my dad at the time. She did call him the next day when she had calmed down. My dad called me a short while after and asked if I would be willing to go to a group therapy session with him and Ryan. Honestly, I think it sounds pointless, but if it's a chance to get Ryan and I to at least be courteous to each other, I'll take it. My dad said he has a few therapists in mind, and he's gonna see if one of them can get us an appointment next week. Last thing, I'm definitely more of a logical, factual person over an emotional one, so I try to write without a bias, even though Ryan frustrates the hell out of me. I hope it doesn't come off as me painting him as the devil, because I do see some semblance of a good person in him. When he talks to our dad and grandparents, he seems like such a normal guy. It's only when it comes to me that he gets really mean and belittling. I don't know what his issue is, but I really wish I could meet the guy he is to everyone else. Update 7. The therapy session was interesting. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I thought she was gonna make us look at ink pictures and say what we saw or do trust exercises or something, but all we did was talk. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't really great either. I don't think much of anything got resolved, but I guess that would have been too much to ask for a single session. I drove to the city on Wednesday after school. I met up with my dad and Ryan at the therapist's office. We didn't really talk much before we got in. Ryan was texting his mom, and my dad wanted to wait until we got into the therapist's office. When we did get in, the therapist asked us to introduce ourselves, and then she asked why we had come to therapy, and my dad gave her a quick rundown of the story so far. She asked me how I felt about this whole scenario. Ryan complained, asking why I got to talk first, because the therapist asked me. So she promised he would get his chance to speak, but that we shouldn't interrupt each other. I told her my only issue is that right there, Ryan is rude and treats me like crap for no reason. He said he has his reasons. The therapist asked him what his reasons for disliking me were. He apparently had a whole list ready. His reasons were, I always bring Josh along as my bodyguard. I told him that is not true. I don't need Josh to fight my battles for me. I've seen Ryan much more by myself than I have with Josh. Josh was only there 2 times. Which my dad confirmed right there that he asked Ryan if he was okay with my mom and Josh coming to their house that night, or if he wanted to wait until it could just be the 3 of us. Ryan said he was fine with all 3 of us coming. He said again that he changed his mind when we got there. The therapist asked what made him change his mind, and he said he just did. He wouldn't elaborate. Second time was to visit my grandparents, which I reminded him that Josh only came with at my mother's insistence, so I didn't have to drive and be there alone, and that Ryan wasn't even supposed to be there that weekend. He replied that they're his grandparents, so he doesn't need an invite. I said that's true, but I'm just saying I had no idea he was ever going to be there, so it's not like he can say I purposely brought Josh as backup. 2. I try to turn everyone against him, and he's tired of being blamed and punished for not liking me. I told him I don't try to turn anyone against him. I'm just trying to get to know my newly discovered family. If he's getting in trouble, that is due to his own actions, not mine. I've been nothing but patient and understanding with him even when he's been mean to me every chance he gets. And I'm not the one that punishes him for his behavior, so why is he taking his anger out on me anyway? The therapist asked my dad if he's been punishing Ryan for his behavior. He said no, he wouldn't ground Ryan for having heightened emotions. She asked Ryan if he's not being grounded, then what did he mean by being punished? He responded that his dad and grandparents are scolding him about his behavior and the things he said to me and Josh. I almost couldn't believe it. Apparently he thinks being told not to be so blatantly rude is punishment. 3. He thinks I'm just putting on a golden boy act to try to get his dad's money. I actually laughed at this one. I've seen several people suggest this might be an issue, but I honestly thought there was no way this 16-year-old guy was that concerned about money and inheritance. Well, I was wrong. I said, man, if this is really your biggest concern, we can go to dad's office right now and I'll sign whatever document I need to that waives my rights to an inheritance. I truly don't care about our dad's money. Ryan can have every cent. I didn't come from money and I don't need it to be happy. I plan to create my own wealth and success in life. If Ryan needs that peace of mind that the money is his, I will gladly sign it all over if it gets him to shift his attitude towards me. Unfortunately, our dad went into lawyer mode and said we can't just do that because my mom would need to be present because I'm a minor, and I'd likely have to reaffirm the validity of my choice when I turn 18 anyway. Then he said he doesn't even want me to sign away my rights to anything, so that kind of went nowhere. 4. I was trying to buy his dad's love with the photo album Christmas gift. I didn't even get a chance to respond to this one because our dad jumped in. He was mad. He told Ryan that he has no right to try to decide how someone else perceives a gift. He said that gift meant a lot to him, and when Ryan's older and has his own kids, he'll understand how important those memories are and how much it would hurt if you didn't get to be a part of your kid's childhood. The therapist asked if I could explain to Ryan why I wanted to be a part of their family. Even though I felt it was a bit personal considering I'm not close at all with Ryan, I decided to be honest and tried to explain to him what it was like to lose my adoptive father at 8 years old. I tried to explain how hard it was to be embarrassed, sad when our school or my friend group had father-son events and I couldn't participate because I didn't have a dad anymore. Or what it's like to avoid social media on Father's Day because everyone is understandably posting pictures of their father and praising them for all the things they do and continue to do for their family, and you don't want to have to face reality that you don't get to make memories with your father anymore. When I found out our dad was my bio dad and that he actually wanted to be a part of my life, I took it as a second chance to have a father again. Ryan angrily said he knows what it's like to lose a parent too. I was a bit shocked because I was thinking maybe he had a stepdad or stepmom that died and I didn't know about this. But no, he said ever since his parents divorced he only gets to see his mom twice a month. I saw red. He was talking about his parents' divorce. He equated my father's death to his parents splitting up. I probably should have just walked out, but I genuinely could not believe what he was saying. I angrily told him how dare he compare the two events. His mother moved across town. She's not buried 6 feet underground. I told him you can call your mom and talk to her whenever you want. I reminded him that he was literally texting her about the results of a math test he took while we were waiting to go in. I told him I haven't spoken to my father in almost 9 years and I'll never get to speak to him again. So no, he does not know what it's like to lose a parent. Ryan's only response was okay, so I don't get to talk. Everything I said went right over his head. Or maybe he's just that big of an asshole that he really didn't care what he was saying and how insanely inappropriate it was. Both our dad and the therapist tried to explain to him that divorce and death are two wildly different scenarios, and Ryan eventually just rolled his eyes and said, okay, I get it. Side note, I know some people will probably try to decipher that moment as Ryan was trying to open up and you shut him down. Trust me, he was not. I would love to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he had good intentions, but it just came out horribly. But his attitude, body language, and tone of voice was not I feel your pain so much as it was get over it. I know it may be hard to get that vibe when just reading about it, but if you were in that room you wouldn't have a doubt in your mind that he was being snarky. I know our dad and the therapist easily picked it up too. You could see it in our dad's embarrassed face, and the therapist remained calm and had a poker face the entire session. But you could tell by the way she was talking that even she was a bit surprised by what Ryan was saying. The therapist asked if Ryan wanted to share anything about his situation with his mother. Ryan looked like he wanted to say something but was looking at me kind of weird. I took it as a sign of uncomfortableness, so I did what someone suggested on my last post and offered to leave the room if he needed to talk privately to her and our father. And truthfully, I wanted to leave the room anyway because I felt like I needed to calm myself down. but Ryan said he just didn't feel like talking about it at all. So the therapist decided to switch gears and asked our dad to explain to us why it was so important to him that we get along with each other. He told us that he has a brother that he hasn't seen or spoken to in over 20 years and he misses him every day. He wishes they could be a part of each other's lives again. And when he sees how Ryan and I don't get along, it makes him scared that once we're both out in the adult world, we'll never speak to each other again. The therapist told our dad the circumstances were very different because he grew up with his brother, whereas Ryan and I just met as teenagers. My dad said he knows it's different, but one day he'll be gone and he just wishes we could be there for each other. He actually got really emotional saying all this. Maybe I was just seeing what I wanted to see, but it genuinely looked like Ryan let his guard down as our dad spoke. He looked almost sad to see our dad so upset. At one point, Ryan sort of randomly asked our dad if he cheated on Ryan's mom with my mom, and did she find out and that's why they divorced. Our dad faced him, looked him straight in the eyes and explained to him that that's not the case. He told Ryan to ask his mom how they met. Apparently they met at a summer job they both worked in 2004. He reminded Ryan I was conceived on his 25th birthday in February. He said he doesn't claim to be a perfect man, but that he's definitely not a cheater. He told Ryan he's sorry that things didn't work out with his mom, but that it's not healthy or fair to anyone to stay with someone you're not truly happy with, even for your children. The therapist co-signed on that and explained to Ryan that while it's completely normal for him to be hurt and upset that his parents divorced, that his parents did the right thing in separating instead of staying in an unhappy marriage. Our dad said that even then he doesn't regret ever being with Ryan's mom because she gave him Ryan. The therapist surprisingly said we had a good session and she wanted us to go home and really think about what everyone said and try to see things from each other's point of view. She said her initial conclusion is that Ryan and I seem to have already made up our minds about each other based on limited interaction, and we think we know who the other is and what our intentions are when really we don't know each other at all. On the way out, my dad thanked us for going because he knew neither of us really wanted to do it. He asked if we would go again and Ryan said he'll go for our dad, but he didn't want to go with me because he felt like he couldn't really speak his mind. To his credit, he did say no offense to me, and none was taken because I definitely do not want to have to sit through any more of Ryan's analogies. Dad said that's fine, he can go on his own if he's more comfortable with that. He asked if I wanted to go on my own too, and I told him I'd think about it, but I really don't want to. It's 2 hours of driving for me to talk to a therapist for an hour about stuff I've already repeated ad nauseum online, and to my friends and family. I started thinking about what the therapist said and what a lot of people have said on my posts about trying to be more empathetic towards Ryan and the situation he's in. So even though I stand by what I said about him relating death and divorce as insensitive, I did tell him I don't know the situation with his mom and I'm sorry if I made him feel unheard or unimportant when he brought her up. I let my emotions get the better of me in the moment. Ryan said thanks and our dad asked if I wanted to get dinner with them, but I lied and said I promised my mom I'd be home for dinner. The truth is I felt like I already had enough interaction with the both of them for one day and just wanted to leave on a neutral note. With all that being said, I don't think I'll be updating for a while unless something big happens. I feel like my posts are nothing but negativity and no progress lately, and I don't want to be redundant. Update 8. This isn't really an update. I just wanted to clarify a few things. I want to start off by saying I have told everything exactly as it happened. Obviously, there are things and conversations I am not privy to, especially on Ryan's side of things, but I have attempted to be as unbiased and fair as possible when recounting events. I try to give Ryan credit when it's due. I haven't changed or withheld any information to try to portray myself as better than him in any way. I appreciate the comments telling me how mature and patient I am, but I feel it would be disingenuous to not be a bit more clear on where I stand. I've mentioned this in the comments before, but if Ryan was any other guy, I would have hit him a long time ago. I know people will say violence is not the answer, and I know that, but I'm just being truthful. I am not someone who lets others disrespect me, my friends or my family, and while I now understand that his world has been overturned significantly more than mine has, Ryan has crossed the line quite a few times. The only reason I haven't hit him and why I held Josh back at my grandparents' house is because even though my dad has been nothing but kind and welcoming to me, I still don't have a strong bond with him. We just met. I want to know him and have him in my life, but I'm scared that if I retaliate by hitting or even just yelling at Ryan too harshly, my dad may decide he doesn't want to have a relationship with me anymore. So it's not moral superiority that causes me to be so patient and mature in these scenarios. It's fear of losing my dad before I even get to know him. If I've painted myself as some paragon of goodness who can do no wrong in my posts, I apologize. That is not my intent. I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not the most mature 17-year-old in the world. I'm just a kid who desperately wants a chance at having a dad again. To that end, I am putting up with Ryan's behavior and constantly attempting to be the bigger person when he lashes out at me. Regarding Ryan's living situation, he lives with our dad full-time. I'm not sure exactly when Ryan's parents divorced, but I know it's been years. My dad did say that Ryan chose to live with him, so I would imagine it was sometime within the last few years if he was old enough to get to decide who he wanted to live with. I know people have said Ryan is scared of having to now share time with his dad, but I can say with full confidence that physically it's not that big of a loss for him. I live an hour away, so meeting up multiple times a week is just not realistic between mine and my dad's schedules. I've seen our dad a lot within the past month, but that's because there was a lot to do with meeting family and taking the paternity test and getting the results. I don't expect this to be the standard moving forward, and even then the time I've spent with him recently is nothing compared to the alone time Ryan still had with him during the same month. As for Ryan's mother, I don't know much. I've seen a lot of people say that she must be an absentee parent, and as of right now I just don't get that vibe. I agree that it's odd that she only sees Ryan every other weekend. I'm not sure why that's their arrangement, but Ryan said his mom was texting him to ask how he did on his math test, and I guess that doesn't scream neglectful parent to me. I don't think someone who doesn't love their kid would care to ask how they're doing in school. On several different occasions I've heard Ryan mention things she's told him recently, so I know they stay in regular contact. At the very least, she does not view Ryan as out of sight, out of mind. And her and my dad are clearly on friendly terms, considering she messaged him about seeing my picture. He never would have found me if not for her. I don't think she would go out of her way to contact him on something that could have been nothing if they weren't on good terms. Some people have asked about Ryan and his personality and social life. Again, I haven't changed or misrepresented anything I've experienced. But with that being said, I may have unintentionally made him appear to be a loner or socially distant. He's not. He looks like any other guy our age. He could be walking down the halls of any high school, and he wouldn't stand out in any negative way. I apologize if I made it seem like he's the shy, quiet kid hiding inside his hoodie or anything like that. I don't know anything about his friend circle. People have asked if he has friends or has trouble making friends. I would assume he has no issue with that. Like I said, he's like any other teenage boy. Physically, he's not an ugly guy at all, so I would imagine he would have no problem getting interest from girls. I haven't met or seen any of his friends, and I know a lot of people said that he should have been allowed to have a friend at night. I'm not sure why people seem to blame me for Ryan being alone that night. After the therapy session, I now know that both my dad and Ryan knew Josh was coming, so that was on them to have him invite a friend. It's not my house to invite people to, and I hadn't even met Ryan or have any way to contact him, so it's not like I could message him to say feel free to bring a friend because I'm bringing mine. That's all I can think of right now. I hope this clears a few things up. I know I'm pretty bad about responding to comments if it's not within a few hours after I make a new post, but I do read every comment. I did get back to a lot of people on my last post just now. Again, I don't think I'm gonna be updating unless something big happens, but I'm still hoping things start to look up soon. Update 9. I know I said I would only update if something big happened. That isn't the case, but it's been a month since my last real update, and I guess I just feel the need to vent. Ryan is hot and cold. I don't know how his therapy is going, but I know he still attends. Sometimes I feel like he's trying, and sometimes it's like he's the same as he's always been to me. I don't want to bore anyone with super detailed events like I have in the past, so here are a few brief-ish examples of his shifting behavior in the past month. A week after our group therapy session, Ryan got appendicitis and had to get an appendectomy. He was fine, but when he was discharged from the hospital, he was told to stay home and try to stay on bed rest as much as possible for at least a week. I went to his city with a group of my friends the week that happened because we had a day off from school. We were planning on riding go-karts and hitting the batting cages. My mom mentioned that it would be nice to check in on Ryan while I was there and see if he needed anything, since our dad was at work and he was presumably home alone. I didn't really want to because I had reached out to Ryan over text to offer well wishes after his surgery, and he didn't seem to care at all. He didn't even save my number after his New Year's Day apology, which just made me feel stupid that I sent him a text wishing him well just to get a "who is this?" in response. Also, I was trying to keep my distance from him in general, but I thought my mom was right and I decided it wouldn't hurt to stop by and ask. I figured if he was mad I could just make a quick escape and let it be a lesson learned not to drop by unless our dad was home. So we went inside and he was in his game room. He asked what I was doing there and I told him we just stopped by to see if he needed us to go to the store and get him anything or if he wanted us to go get him food or something since he wasn't allowed to drive until he was off his pain meds. He said he didn't need anything from me. We were getting ready to leave but my friend Austin saw the game Ryan was playing and started talking to him about it. And surprisingly Ryan was engaging in conversation with him about it. A couple of my friends started looking at all his games and consoles and I quietly asked Ryan if it was cool if we hung out there for a bit. I told him we could leave if he was just trying to relax. He said it's whatever and went back to talking to Austin about the game he was playing and asked if he wanted to co-op us, so we all ended up sitting down and playing video games for a bit. Ryan has 2 TVs and several handheld consoles, so he set us up with our own game while he and Austin played the one he was already playing. He didn't make any complaints about save files or look mad or bothered that we were there. It was honestly a pretty fun day. After a couple hours we got hungry, so we decided to order pizza. And when my friends and I were pooling our money together like we always do, Ryan offered to pay for the whole thing. He actually said, "No, you guys are guests. My dad would want me to pay," in a friendly voice, and he paid. He didn't even eat anything. Maybe because he was on a diet after his procedure, or maybe he just wasn't hungry, but he paid the whole bill regardless. Me and Josh were honestly just shocked because it was such a huge departure from the way he was with us on New Year's Eve. After we left, Ryan requested all of my friends on Instagram except Josh and I, which kinda sucked, but it wasn't the end of the world. Ike, if it was the meds he was on, or him being too tired from his surgery to be mad at me. Or maybe he had a good therapy session that week, but he was like a different, nicer person. Unfortunately, that didn't last. A few days later on that weekend, our dad had a BBQ with all his friends and their families attending for his birthday. My mom and I went. When we got there, Ryan asked what I had gotten our dad. I told him I'd gotten him a few shirts and some ties for work. He asked what color. I told him and he said that's his least favorite color. I just said, "Okay man, if he doesn't like it I can exchange it for something else." It sucked cause I thought he had turned over a new leaf when we visited him after his appendectomy. My dad introduced me and my mom to a lot of his friends. Everyone was understandably curious about me because most of these people have known my dad the majority of his adult life, so to find out he has a surprise second teenage son was probably a shock to them. And it seemed like the ones that didn't know the story were all being informed by the ones who did know. These were grown adults, but I still felt like I was standing in my school's cafeteria after a rumor was going around about me. There were a few other teens there and they of course all knew Ryan. I tried to talk to them and they, including Ryan, weren't necessarily rude, but they clearly didn't want me in their circle either, which made me feel out of place, so I left them alone. I really wish that could have been one of Ryan's nicer days. Luckily there was another girl around my age there that wasn't part of their group, so I hung out with her while trying to ignore all the "that's him" looks from my dad's friends. Didn't hurt that she was really pretty too. Grinning face with sweat. Later on, Ryan came up to me and said I must love all the attention being on me even though it's someone else's birthday. I told him I didn't and that it's actually extremely uncomfortable to walk into a place and have everyone staring and whispering about you. On Valentine's Day, my friends and I participated in a showcase at our school. It was basically like a singing talent show, but you lip sync to everything and there's no actual winners. It was basically entertainment for the parents who paid for tickets and the Valentine's Day dinner. I didn't even want to do it because, contrary to Ryan's beliefs, I am someone who would much rather blend in than be in the spotlight. But a lot of teachers at my school offer extra credit to students who participate in school events like that, and it required minimal effort and preparation. Plus my friends kind of peer pressured me into it, so I did it with them. I actually didn't invite my dad because I knew that even if he didn't have a date for Valentine's and could show up, that he would bring Ryan, and I just didn't want to deal with him that night. But my mom invited my dad anyway without telling me, and he was actually really upset that I didn't tell him about it because he said he's missed so many of my school events already, so I felt pretty bad about it afterwards. But he did bring Ryan, and surprisingly Ryan was really chill that night. He actually complimented us, not to me directly, but I heard him tell one of my friends that we did really good and it looked like fun. Again, another hot and cold moment. And finally, just a couple days ago, Josh, Austin, and I were playing basketball at the park. Austin dropped his phone and shattered his screen, so he went home to tell his parents so they could get the screen replaced. Ryan showed up an hour and a half after that looking for Austin. He was stopping by to drop off a video game for Austin to borrow. Austin never told us Ryan was gonna show up. So we told Ryan what happened and that we didn't know exactly where he went because there's a few places in our town that you can get your phone screen replaced. We offered to give the game to Austin on his behalf, but he just walked off, and a couple minutes later we saw him arguing with a group of guys nearby. Me and Josh went over and Ryan was just going off on them. We asked what was going on and one of the guys said we need to get our boy out of there before he got hurt. Of course that pissed Ryan off even more because he doesn't see me and Josh as friends or even friendly, so he got more aggressive and pushed one of them. Honestly, I wanted to let him get his ass beat because the three guys clearly didn't want to fight, but Ryan was getting in their faces and pushing them. But more than that, I didn't want to have to look my dad in the face with him knowing I just stood by while Ryan got his ass kicked by three guys even if he was the one instigating. So Josh and I end up getting into a physical confrontation with these guys that we have no problem with because Ryan wouldn't stop running his mouth at them. Thankfully no punches were thrown, so it wasn't a fight, just a lot of pushing, grabbing, and yelling while trying to separate Ryan from the other guys. After me and Josh separated Ryan from the three guys, they left and Ryan started yelling at me that he doesn't ever need my help and to stay the fuck out of his business. I was pretty pissed because we were just trying to help him not end up in the hospital due to his temper tantrum, so I told him, you're in my town looking for one of my friends and you're making it my business because I can't just stand by and let you get beat up. How big of a badass he thinks he is. He wasn't winning a fight against those three guys. He told me to fuck off and left. I still have no idea why he even wanted to fight them in the first place. Yesterday my friends Austin and Trevor went to the city. I got a text from Austin asking if I was cool with them hanging out with Ryan. Apparently Trevor posted a story of them at this arcade entertainment center in the city and Ryan saw it and asked if he could meet up with them. I told Austin they don't need my permission to hang out with Ryan if they want. But they both know that I've had several issues with Ryan and our friend group has all been together since we were in elementary, so I appreciated that they asked me. I'll admit it does suck that Ryan won't give me a fair chance but seems to like all my friends and apparently he now wants to hang out with them. I don't think he's doing it to get under my skin or anything. He does seem to genuinely like all my friends, especially Austin, as he and Ryan are both big gamers and seem to know a bunch of games I've never heard of. One thing Austin said is that he was talking to Ryan about a game that Josh, Austin, and I play together. Ryan said he likes that game and asked about playing. Austin told him yeah, he could join our squad when we play, but Ryan immediately changed his mind and suddenly said he doesn't play that game anymore. Austin said it was pretty obvious that he didn't want to play with me. Austin and Trevor both told me that Ryan is overall a chill guy, but that they just stick to being online friends with him going forward because they don't want to cause any issues between us. So that's where we're at. I don't really understand Ryan or why he does the things he does. Like I said, sometimes he's nice. Never to me directly, but he just leaves me alone, I guess would be the right way to say it. But then other times, especially at the weekly dinners I have with him and our dad, he's just mean and aggressive for no reason. It's honestly pretty frustrating. I know therapy isn't an instant fix, but I hope he's taking it seriously because putting up with him when he's in a bad mood is exhausting. Update 10. Breaking point. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm at the end of my rope. I told my dad 2 weeks ago that I think he and I should just have our own time. Whenever I hang out with him and Ryan, it's always Ryan being passive-aggressive at best and downright mean on average. He doesn't like me. He will never like me. I've accepted that. I'm over it. I told our dad I'll go to the weekly dinner he likes to have, but other than that I would rather see him alone, without Ryan there. I explained that it didn't necessarily have to be forever, but at least for a while. He was upset because I know he wants us to get along, but he agreed to my request anyway. I should also mention that I wanted to do weekly dinners on weekends because that works better for my schedule, but Ryan insisted on them being on weekdays so he could be there. I was confused because even when it was his idea, and he said he wanted to be there, he's never nice to me during dinner. After the events of Sunday, I believe that his intentions were never that he wanted it to be a family dinner. He just wanted to keep tabs on me and our dad, and he can't do that if I go to dinner on weekends when Ryan isn't there half of those days. I'm taking the SAT on Saturday. Between work, school, extracurriculars, and trying to find time to have a social life somewhere in between, I haven't studied anywhere near as much as I would like. So on Sunday I was gonna go to my friend Bree's house to study together with a couple of our other friends. But my dad really wanted to hang out that weekend. I felt guilty because I had to cancel on our plans the weekend before because I had a project due for one of my classes. He offered to help me study for my SAT, and TBH I didn't really want or need his help. Not because I didn't want to spend time with him, because I definitely did. But I just really wanted to study with my friends who are also taking the test. But I let my guilt win and I said we could go to the library for a few hours if he wanted to help me study. I suggested the library because my mom had a friend visiting from out of state, and they're very chatty at home. This was our first actual one-on-one hangout since I asked him to keep our time separate from Ryan. He came by himself and we went to the local library. I reminded him of the math sections that I needed to study and we started. It was actually really nice to have my dad help me. I'm really bad at math, but he's good at it, so he was surprisingly really helpful for someone who hasn't been in school in almost 20 years. Plus, he admitted later on that he refreshed his knowledge a bit the night before so he could be helpful. He was taking it seriously and explained to me what I was doing wrong and solving a few problems. I was really enjoying the time spent with him even though I was just studying for a test. About an hour and 15 minutes after we'd been in the library, Ryan walks up to us. He showed up at the library in my town, the town that is an hour away from his home. I thought I was hallucinating at first. I thought there's no way he just drove an hour to interrupt my SAT prep. But it was real and he was there. I know it wasn't planned because my dad looked just as confused as I was. He asked Ryan how he knew where we were and Ryan reminded him that they have each other's locations shared with each other. He asked what Ryan was doing there and Ryan held up an SAT prep book and said he came to study too. I asked if he had even signed up for the SAT because just last week when our dad asked him about it at dinner he said he wasn't gonna do it on the 12th. And he'd take it later. Ryan said he decided to sign up for it. I asked when he signed up. He said yesterday. I told him that's impossible because late registration ended on the 1st of the month. He said he signed up for a later one, but when I asked which one he didn't remember the date or even just the month. I don't believe that he actually signed up to take it. He sat down and our dad told him that he should have called and asked before coming. Ryan got defensive and started saying that he has to take the SAT too and it's not fair that I'm getting help and he isn't. Then he ended his argument with, "Are you really gonna tell me to leave?" He was challenging our father to ask him to leave. And our dad, ever the kind soul, told him of course not. I've noticed Ryan does that a lot. Whenever he and I get into an argument and our dad tells him to stop, he asks our dad a question that's specific to whatever is currently going on, but under the surface it sounds like, "Do you love me or not?" And our dad caves to him every single time. So Ryan opened up his book and started asking for help on the first page he saw. I mean, he literally just opened his book up to a random page, no bookmark, and asked, "So how do I do this?" without even reading what was on the page. My dad mouthed to me that he was sorry. I was in complete disbelief. Ryan gets to see our dad every day of his life. He gets to eat 2 meals a day with him, 3 on weekends unless he's at his mom's. They watch TV and go to the movies together. They go on hikes. 80% of my dad's conversations with me revolve around the latest activities he and Ryan did. I get one shared dinner and what was supposed to be 3 hours a week alone with our dad. 3 hours, and Ryan couldn't even let me have that. I started formulating a plan to text my mom and ask her to call me in 5 minutes and make up an excuse for me to come home. But then I thought why? Why should I care about sparing my dad's feelings or saving myself from embarrassment? Neither of them give a shit about my feelings anyway. It feels like I'm expected to fall in line and be patient and try to understand how hard it is for Ryan to share our dad. And I've done that over and over again. But Ryan will not give me the same respect and I don't feel like being walked all over anymore. I'm tired of it, so I just started packing my things up. My dad quietly asked me to please not leave. Ryan let out an amused scoff and asked seriously. He was enjoying the moment. I didn't say a word. I just grabbed my stuff and walked out. My dad followed me to my car. He said he was sorry and that he swears he didn't know Ryan would show up. I know he's telling the truth, but he should have told Ryan to leave. I know he's in a difficult position. I know he's terrified of making Ryan feel unloved or replaced by me. But I don't care anymore. I don't care about Ryan's feelings. I'm tired of being mature and understanding. I'm tired of being told to try to have empathy for him, to think about what he's going through. I don't care. He doesn't care about me. Why should I care about him? I told my dad to really think about what just happened. Ryan tracked his location and drove an hour away from home because he couldn't stand the idea of me finally getting some alone time with our dad. Am I the crazy one? Is that not completely inappropriate and insane for someone to do? He said he'll tell Ryan that he can't do this again, but asked if I would just come back inside this time. I told him no. I said he can go in there and help Ryan study for the test he didn't even really sign up to take. I wasn't gonna sit there and play nice and bite my tongue for the millionth time. I'm over it. I told him that he can have Ryan take him back to my house to pick up his car, and not to wait for me to get home and not to dare tell my mom what happened if she was still there. I left and drove around for a bit. I called Bree to see if I could still go over, but she didn't answer. I found out later that they were taking a practice test at the time. I called Josh, but he didn't answer. I didn't want to go home and see my dad and Ryan show up to get his car, so I went to the park and sat at a picnic table. I tried to study, but I couldn't focus. My mind was stuck on what happened at the library and how angry I was about the whole thing. Some more shit went down at the park that I don't feel comfortable enough talking about here. but it made my day even worse and I was just kind of a mess mentally. Josh ended up calling me back and I went to his house and I just vented about the whole day. He says I need to stop seeing Ryan completely because all Ryan does is get in my head and cause me misery. Then he said I'm so focused on being angry at Ryan showing up to ruin my time with my dad that I don't even realize the severity of the situation I was in at the park. And I realized he was right. I've let Ryan's animosity towards me consume my thoughts. Why am I letting this guy affect my mindset so much? My dad called me a couple times that night to talk, but I didn't answer. I was with my friends at the time and I honestly didn't want to talk about it. We ended up texting briefly. I was kind of a jerk to him because I was so mad, but he did acknowledge what Ryan did was wrong and he apologized for not asking him to leave, which made me feel a little better. I still wish he would have told Ryan to leave then and there. I know that Ryan is the kid he raised and I'm just the kid he met a few months ago, so I would never expect him to choose me over Ryan. But I can't help but wish he would choose to side with me just one time. He and I have talked since then and things are better between us, but I honestly don't know how much more of this I can take. I feel like I'm about to crack. Update 11. Ryan 1. I wrote those 2 words 3 days ago. It's all I could stomach to write at the time. I wanted to just disappear and abandon this account because I didn't want to recount my failure. But I do feel like there are several people here who genuinely care, and I don't want to let anyone else down. Now that it's been a few days and the initial wave of emotions has passed, I can explain what happened. Consider this my final rant, vent, post, and thank you in advance for hearing me out one last time. I went to my dad's house for dinner on Saturday night. I know everyone told me to stop going. I knew all of you were right, but I went again anyway because it means so much to my dad. He never guilt-tripped me into going. He hasn't tried to force Ryan and I to be together since January. It was my choice to go to dinner every week. He does so much for me and never asks for anything in return other than letting him have one dinner a week with me at his house. To be fair to my dad, I never did tell him how much I was hurting or the true extent of Ryan's behavior. I thought I would get a chance to pull him aside after dinner and talk to him about how I'd been feeling, but that moment never came. At least not in the way I had hoped. During dinner, Ryan started up again, like he always does. My dad said we had to celebrate me being done with the SAT, and Ryan asked why we would celebrate when we don't even know if I did well yet. I was so fed up with his rude comments. We started arguing back and forth while our dad was trying to get us both to stop and continue dinner. If I'm being completely honest, it wasn't even the worst that Ryan has ever been to me. Not even close. But I think after the library incident I had mostly checked out of this entire scenario. And this was just the final push. Our argument got to the point where I said I could be doing a million other things at the moment, but I was there trying to have a dinner with the two of them. Ryan shouted back asking me if I'm so miserable there, then why wasn't I off doing those things? I was getting ready to just really let him have it, but then it was as if a switch flipped in my head and I realized that he's right. Why was I wasting my time trying to make this work when Ryan is so dead set on not allowing me to be in our father's life? Why was I fighting for a father who can't even stand up to his own son for me? I looked at our dad and told him I can't do this anymore. I told him every time I come over I spend an hour driving to his house mentally preparing myself to go to war with Ryan and trying to convince myself that this time will be different. And afterwards I spend an hour driving back home feeling like a complete idiot for ever thinking things would change. This whole experience is turning me into someone that I'm not. I've become someone who is angry, lashing out at the wrong people. Someone who can't focus when I'm at school and work because I'm constantly thinking about this situation and what I can do to make it better or what I should have said or done when reflecting on everything. My grade in one of my classes slipped and I had to beg my teacher to let me redo an important assignment because I was too distracted to do it right the first time. I took the SAT this past Saturday and I feel like I did good, but not as great as I could have if I was in a better headspace. It's just too much. I know that at the end of the day none of that is directly Ryan's fault. It's mine for letting him get into my head. But I also know that the best thing I can do for myself is walk away from the whole situation. I told my dad that he is so scared to hurt Ryan and not make him feel replaced that he's letting him treat me like shit right in front of him and he doesn't do anything. He said he does discipline him and I said clearly he's not doing enough because Ryan's always the same. He tried to approach me and I told him not to. I didn't want him to hug me or tell me that he was sorry, because I knew if he did he would know exactly what to say and he would convince me to give it just one more try. The truth is that I'm so pathetically desperate for him to love and accept me that I allowed Ryan to tear me down piece by piece because I convinced myself it was worth the pain and I could get through it eventually. But it's not worth it anymore and Ryan has stripped me down to the bone. I don't want him to have a hold over me anymore. Ryan huffed and rolled his eyes. I said I'm done, bro, which pissed him off even more. For context, I always call other guys man or bro just out of habit. I've always made a conscious effort not to call Ryan bro to avoid this exact situation, but I just slipped in the moment. He shouted that he's not my fucking bro. I told him that he's right. He's not. I admit I got cocky and told him that he missed out because I know I'm a damn good friend and I would have been the best brother he could have ever had. I would have had his back through anything. I took out the credit card and house key my dad gave me and left it on the table and told him again that I was leaving and I wasn't ever coming back. Him and Ryan both followed me to the door. I was walking away. I told myself I needed to be the bigger person just one last time. But Ryan was relentless. He shouted for me to stop being dramatic and to stop playing the victim. Our dad was telling Ryan to stop talking, but of course it did nothing. He was telling me to wait and to just stay so he and I could talk. I just wanted to leave, but Ryan kept following me and antagonizing me about running away. I made it to the front door and Ryan, who was right behind me, said you'll come crawling back in a week, and I turned around and swung. I know it makes me a coward to swing on an unsuspecting person. I know I lost any moral high ground I may have had when I did it. I swear I just wanted to leave, but he just wouldn't leave me the hell alone. Ryan fell to the ground and looked completely stunned that I'd actually hit him. The disappointed look on my dad's face was worse. I thought it would make me happy to hit Ryan, to finally shut him up. But it didn't. It made me feel worse. All I really felt in that moment was overwhelming sadness because I knew that the second that punch connected, my relationship with my bio dad was really over. My dad went to help Ryan back up and I told Ryan that he wins. I told him he's an only child again, so stay out of my town and just leave me alone. He didn't say anything. He didn't try to hit me back. He didn't laugh or smirk or mock me. He just stared at me. My dad tried again to stop me from leaving, but I told him the same applied to him. I said goodbye to him for the last time and walked out. I managed to make it 2/3 of the way home, pretending like I was okay and fighting back tears. But on that last stretch of road it suddenly hit me like a truck and I cried the rest of the way home. When I got there I waited in my car until the redness in my eyes was completely gone and it wasn't obvious I'd just been crying. I walked inside and my mom came from the kitchen and was surprised that I was home so early. I said hi to her and she instantly asked what was wrong. Like how she does it. She always knows when something is wrong with me no matter how well I hide it. But I didn't want to ruin her night, so I figured I would just tell her in the morning. I tried to lie and tell her nothing happened and I was just a bit tired from the drive. She made me look her in the face and asked me what happened. And I started crying again. And I know it's a bit childish, but I just really wanted my mom in that moment. We went to the living room and I told my mom all about how Ryan won't allow me to have a relationship with our dad and how my dad is too scared of hurting him to stop him. I hadn't told her most of the things that Ryan had said and done up to that point because I knew she would be angry at him and my dad if she knew the full story. She told me that I don't have to go there anymore if it's just causing me pain and stress. All I could think and say to her was that I really wanted it to work. And I did. I wanted it to work so bad. I ended up texting my friends in our group chat and told them I wasn't going to be seeing Ryan or my dad anymore. They all blocked Ryan on Instagram and Snapchat except for Austin. He had to return a game he borrowed, so a couple days later he went to the city with his girlfriend, left the game on the front porch and sent Ryan a picture of it on the porch with a middle finger emoji, and then he blocked him too. I know that's not the most mature response, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me feel good to know my friends all had my back. The next day when I got out of the shower I heard my mom raising her voice at someone, so I quickly got dressed and saw my dad was at the front door. I didn't approach and he couldn't see me from downstairs, but I listened to part of their argument. She was refusing to let him in because I had told her the night before that I didn't want to see or speak to him. It was just back and forth of him wanting to come talk to me and my mom saying no and that he and Ryan aren't welcome in our home anymore. He eventually said he's my son and my mom told him that he doesn't get to say that because a father would advocate for his child and would have put a stop to Ryan's behavior months ago. He was getting emotional and telling her he's in a difficult spot in the middle of both of us. She said she knows, but that he constantly lets me down because he knows I'm the more mature one, but that I'm not okay and I haven't been okay for a while. And he fails to see that. She said that I'm only 17 years old, but he acts like I'm a grown man and Ryan is just my bratty kid brother that I have to put up with. The last thing I heard was her saying that I don't have to and will not be putting up with Ryan's behavior ever again. At that point, I went back to my room and put my AirPods in because I didn't want to hear the rest. My dad did call me. I'm not sure if it was when he was still there or if he'd just left. I didn't answer. My mom came up a bit after and told me he stopped by and said that she told him not to show up at my school. or work. She also said she told him I would reach out if I ever wanted to talk, but she reassured me that I don't have to if I don't want to. I just want to move on. He sent me a bunch of text messages and left half a dozen voicemails. I've only listened to parts of some of them before I turn them off. I know I have to block his number, but I also know that once I do that it means this part of my life is well and truly over. I always thought that when it came to fight or flight that I was a fighter, and I did fight. I fought so hard. But I don't have any more fight in me. Not for this. Regardless of what's happened, I stand by everything I said about my father in the past. He's a good man. He has a kind heart. His only fault in all this is that he loves his son most in the world and wants to protect his feelings. And if that's his biggest character flaw, I think he'll be okay. I wanted him in my life, but the truth is I don't need him. Ryan does. I don't know what goes on in Ryan's head, and as of a few days ago I officially could not care less. But I do hope he grows and matures someday. Not for me, not for his dad, for himself. Because the person he is now is not going to get very far in life. I know there are several people who are sure that I twisted events or omitted details to make myself seem faultless while demonizing Ryan. That is not the case. I know that everything I've posted is true. Ryan knows all of the things that he's done, even if he truly believes that he's justified in his actions. And that's really all that matters. I also know that a lot of people believe me to be an invader who showed up and disrupted Ryan's perfect life. Well, now the invader is gone and Ryan gets what he wants, just like I'm sure he always has. Maybe someday when I'm older I can have a relationship with Ryan's dad. Or maybe I won't care in a year. Maybe he won't either. Maybe I'll end up like my uncle, just another mystery in their family history. Another relative that no one has heard from in 20 years. For anyone who has supported me with advice and followed my posts from the beginning, I'd like to truly thank you. Getting to vent, get opinions and perspective, and read words of encouragement really did mean a lot to me. And I'm sorry if I wasted your time with reading my posts just to not see this through. And sorry that I couldn't tough it out. Maybe Ryan would have come around if I'd have held out a little longer. I'm sorry that I'm not as strong as I thought I was. All I can say is that I'm not a quitter, but I do know that it's time to walk away. I ignored the signs for weeks. I should have known after New Year's Eve that it was never going to work out. I deluded myself into thinking that I was going to have a happy ending. I kept trying to appease Ryan and his dad by being the perfect, patient, understanding person that I thought I needed to be to find a place in their family. But the truth is that person is a doormat, and it's time I stop worrying about them and start focusing on putting myself first again. I don't care about protecting Ryan's anonymity anymore, so feel free to repost this anywhere. I know it's petty, but a small part of me hopes Ryan will see these posts one day and realize how awful he was to me. I'm not perfect. I can admit I was self-centered in the beginning and only cared about how the situation was great for me without even thinking about how it impacted his life. I admit I talked shit about Ryan both online and to my family and friends, but it was only because of the things he said and did to me. I went into this excited at the idea that I was gonna have a brother. After our first meeting was a disaster, I thought, well, my friends all say that siblings don't always get along, so I just have to give him time to warm up to me. When I was with him, I really did try to get along with him, but I now see that he wasn't going to stop until I was gone. I went half my life without a father. Even though it's not the outcome I wanted, I know that I can do it again. I'm choosing to walk away now because I want to remember him as the man who never gave up to be in my life. I want to remember him as the man who loved me before he even met me. I know that if I stay, it's going to get worse, and going to get worse, and I don't want that to be the way that he remembers me. This whole situation has caused me heartache and opened up some old wounds that I thought had healed. But I have my mom and my friends to help get me through it. I wouldn't change anything that happened. I'm still glad I got to meet him. He gave me a Christmas memory I will cherish for the rest of my life. But in the long run, it was just never going to work, and I've accepted that. I'm not okay right now, but I will be in time. Thank you again for reading, listening, and caring about some random kid on the internet. I wish you all the best in life. Take care of yourselves. Update 12. I know a lot of people felt strongly about my last post, and that's my fault. As time went on, I used this space as a way to let out my frustrations. It became only about the bad stuff. I never told you guys about how my dad messaged me every single morning just to say hi, and on school days to wish me a good day at school. That always started my day off on a good note, even if the day before had been crap. I never wrote about the time he asked me what my dream vacation would be and thought he was being sly about planning on making it happen. I never mentioned how excited he was to be able to be the one to take me to my first MLB game whenever baseball season actually started up. There were so many moments I never shared, and that's why I stand by everything I said about him being a good and kind man. He made several mistakes in bringing me into his life, and I won't make excuses for him on that. But I knew then, just like I know now, that he is not a coward or a bad father. A coward is someone who can't admit when they are wrong and apologize. A bad father is someone who learns he has a child and chooses to remain blissfully ignorant. My dad is not those things. I've been unfortunate enough to see true bad parenting in some of my friends' lives, and I've read dozens of horror stories here on Reddit. My dad is not a bad father. He's just a man who couldn't quite adapt to and take control of a new situation as quickly as he probably should have. No one in this scenario is without fault or sin. My dad, Ryan, Josh, my mom, and myself have all made mistakes here. We're all flawed. That just makes us human. None of us should be defined or labeled forever by the mistakes we made in this unusual situation. We all deserve a chance to grow and become better people for ourselves and the ones we love. I didn't expect to ever be posting again. TBH, my plan was to leave my last post up for 24 hours and then delete my account. That's how broken I was. I didn't respond to a single person publicly or privately, so please don't think I ignored you or that your words fell on deaf ears. I did read every single comment and private message, and the amount of support I received from all of you was incredible. There were a couple nights where I was hitting those low points again, and I would open up those comments and see that there were so many people rooting for me to get past this and succeed. It may sound silly, but it really did make a difference to me and helped me keep my chin up during the harder days. Writing my feelings down has helped a lot as well. It helps me keep track of where I'm at and how much I've improved. My mom told me that when she was my age she used to journal a lot, and I should consider getting my emotions out that way. I admitted I have been writing and that it's been therapeutic for me. I had spent so much of the last few months trying to find ways to connect with Ryan and our dad. But at 17 I'm somehow still finding ways that I'm similar to my mom too, which is nice. I wish I could sit here and tell you that the last few weeks were a breeze. I would love to tell you that I was thriving and living my best life after cutting off Ryan and our dad. But that would be a lie. I missed my dad every single day. I doubted myself, wondering if I had made the right choice in walking away. If I can sidebar for a second, I'd like to tell a quick story. When I first started kindergarten, I hated going to school. I was that kid that cried when his mom left. I was very introverted and didn't want to talk to the other kids or my teacher. I was scared and miserable, a far cry from the sociable person I'd like to believe I've become since then. I'm not sure of the exact day, but it was either after the second or third day of school that my dad sat me down, gave me advice about giving the other kids a chance, and told me that all I needed was one good day. If I had one good day, I would see that everything would be okay and I could do it again tomorrow. The next day at school we got paired up for a drawing activity. That was the day I met my future best friend Josh. I vaguely remember we drew monsters fighting each other, which was not at all the assignment, but it was fun. When I told my mom and dad about it after school, my dad asked me if I had a good day, to which I excitedly told him yes. I remember he smiled and told me now do it again tomorrow. I know that story might not seem relevant right now, but I want people to know what an incredible father my dad was. As much as it pains me to admit, I don't have very many memories of lessons that he taught me because I was so young when he died. But that's one lesson I've always tried to put into practice whenever I'm sad. I tell myself that I just need one good day to remind myself that I can still be happy, I can still smile, and that I'll be alright in time. That's what I was aiming for after I walked away from Ryan and our dad. One good day to show me that I was really going to be okay. The last few weeks haven't been easy. While I felt a huge weight lift off of my shoulders right away, it was hard coming to terms with the fact that my second chance at having a dad was over before it could really begin. I considered anonymously sending my posts to Ryan or my bio dad, but I felt like that would be manufacturing drama and trying to force an apology, and I didn't want that. My dad was constantly calling, texting, and leaving voicemails. I never replied to any of them, not out of spite but just to protect myself. He said a multitude of things. Ryan is working on himself and taking therapy seriously. We can have a separate relationship for real this time. Please don't give up on me because I'll never give up on you. All the things I wanted to hear, but just a bit too late. It just became too much. On Saturday I had an amazing night with my friends. But around 11:30 that night my dad messaged me again, and I went right back to that sad version of myself. This was the second time since I walked away that I'd finally had my one good day, and seeing his messages brought me back to that bad place. So I finally worked up the courage to send him a lengthy final text thanking him for everything he had done for me, but that I was done being a second string son, and to please just leave me alone. After that I blocked his number. In my mind I wasn't doing it to be hurtful. I just felt like I needed to close that chapter of my life and move on. Even if you have read all of my posts, you'll never know the full story. Ryan was a nightmare I couldn't wake up from, and while I posted about the biggest moments here, we did have smaller negative interactions in between that I never posted about. It all added up, wore me down, and I didn't even realize how truly unhappy I was until I walked away. I've reread a lot of what I wrote, including the stuff I never posted, and I don't even recognize that person. Specifically with my last post here, I feel like I sound so pathetic in it. I really hit a low point that I will never allow myself to reach again for anyone. Even though there was obvious pain in my heart over losing my bio dad, I felt like myself again shockingly soon once I cut them both off. Not having to see Ryan or worry about his next move was exactly what I needed for my own sanity to return. Speaking of Ryan, I hadn't heard from or talked to him for weeks, but I did get an Instagram message from one of his friends who reached out to me about him. They said he was upset about what happened with our dad and that I should reach out to him. They were weirdly pushy about trying to get me to call Ryan and talk to him. I actually thought it was an April Fool's Day joke at first because my friends and I had been pranking each other all day, but then I felt guilty because I know my friends would never do something like that because they knew how devastated I was about the whole thing. I messaged Ryan's friend back, giving him our dad's business number to reach out to him if he was concerned about Ryan's well-being, and left it at that because I really did not want to go down that rabbit hole again. The very next night after I blocked my dad, I was working my usual shift at the theater. I had just finished switching a soda cartridge in the lobby and I see Ryan walking into the building. He knows my weekend schedule is always the same, so he knew I was almost off work. I was instantly fuming. I walked up to him and told him to get the fuck out. He started to say he didn't come to fight, but I cut him off and told him I don't give a fuck what he came here for, and reminded him that I told him to leave me alone. I was livid. I was finally getting back to my normal self, and he had the audacity to just walk into my workplace like nothing. My manager came up and asked what was going on. Surprisingly, Ryan said he started it and he was leaving, and he left. Unfortunately, it didn't matter to my manager because I still got a write-up and sent home 10 minutes early for causing a disturbance in the lobby, which is fair because I was the one yelling, but it still sucked to get reprimanded at work. I was walking to my car feeling like crap because I've never gotten a write-up or sent home because of my behavior before. About 3 spots ahead of my car was Ryan standing beside his truck, obviously waiting for me. I thought, is he fucking kidding me? He didn't know how to take a hint. I walked past him to go to my car and told him to fuck off before he could say anything. After I passed him, he said, "I'm sorry, Caleb," which shocked the hell out of me. Not even because he said sorry, but because for the first time ever he called me by my name. My actual name. Not pretty boy or a popcorn scooper or any of the other various nicknames he'd come up with for me since we met. He said he knows I don't owe him anything, but asked if I would just hear him out anyway. We ended up having a very long conversation. I've summarized most of it here, but I'm sure there are things I may have forgotten. I stood opposite him while he sat on the bed of his truck because TBH I didn't know if his apology was an act and if he just waiting for an opportunity to swing at me. He started off by saying his therapist suggested he write me a letter, but that's cringe and he'd rather just talk to me in person. He said he fucked up and he knows that he fucked up. He went into some personal stuff regarding why he was so relentless and aggressive towards me. I won't go into detail on that because I believe he said those things in confidence. But after that he told me that he doesn't hate me. He just hates what I represent. I asked what he meant because that made no sense to me. He said he knows no one would ever replace him in his dad's eyes, but that when he sees me he can't help but think I'm the son his dad wanted, and that makes him jealous. He said I'm smart, hardworking, annoyingly nice, and I look and act more like him. Even though he was complimenting me, he still sounded so frustrated, but more at himself instead of me. You all told me in the beginning that he'd been comparing the two of us, but I never really saw it until he said it. I just thought he hated me for existing, plain and simple. While it in no way excuses his behavior, I couldn't help but feel for him. At this point I felt more at ease because he was being so open and honest. So I sat beside him on the bed of his truck and told him I have no interest in being the 2.0 version of our dad. I'm my own person. All I wanted was a relationship with our dad and to know him and have him know me. I admitted to Ryan that I was jealous of him too, and that I would trade in all of the similarities I share with our dad in exchange for the childhood with him that Ryan had. I know more than a few of you said I was lucky that he didn't raise me, because I would have turned out just like Ryan. But I don't think it was extravagant gifts and lack of punishment that made Ryan act the way he did. From what I could gather after our talk and what happened a couple days later, that didn't start until his parents divorced. I think the reason behind his abhorrent behavior towards me was just classic fear and insecurity, something that I think everyone has to deal with at some point in life. I told him whenever I was with our dad his favorite topic to talk about was always Ryan. Ryan said the same thing, that when it was the two of them I was always the biggest topic. Hearing so much about each other probably didn't help with us already disliking one another, but I think our dad is just the kind of person who loves talking about his kids. He did tell me once that he loves being a dad and it's been the best part of his life. Yes, I know he didn't get it right a lot in this matter, but his heart was always in the right place. Ryan and I realized that we actually know quite a bit about each other and what our lives were like. Not because we ever talked to each other, but because our dad told us things about one another. Ryan made a casual joke saying if we actually got along and told each other stuff, our dad wouldn't even know what to talk about anymore. He actually said my dad at first, but then corrected himself to our dad, which might not seem like a huge deal, but he's never said that before. He's always said my dad, my grandpa, my grandma, etc. Until then he'd never acknowledged me as part of his family. He told me that after I left their house the last time that I was there, he got grounded for the first time since his parents split up. He was only allowed to go to school and back home, and he wasn't allowed to play any of his games for 2 weeks. And at first he blamed me because he didn't think it was fair that he got grounded when I was the one that punched him. He says he was in denial about all his behavior leading up to that night being the main problem because he didn't want to be the bad guy. But after his punishment ended, he realized I really wasn't coming back and he knew he had messed up badly. I told him I would be lying to him if I apologized and said I regretted punching him, because I didn't. But I did tell him the truth that it didn't make me feel any better and I wasn't celebrating it then or now. He asked if I changed my number. I told him I didn't and that I had just blocked him weeks ago and our dad yesterday. He said our dad brought it up that morning thinking I had changed my number because his calls weren't going through anymore. He said our dad pretends like he's okay in front of him, but Ryan can see that he's not, and he hates that it's his fault. Ryan said that it's no secret that he wasn't happy when our dad found out about me and that he did want me gone, but that our dad can't just pretend I don't exist now because that's not the kind of father that he is. Ryan then told me that what hurts the most was that our dad doesn't look at him the same anymore. When he brought it up, our dad told him that he will always love Ryan, but that it would take time to forgive him. Worse than that, he told Ryan that he knows he failed both of us as a father and he was sorry for that. He was taking the lion's share of the blame. That made me feel horrible because I didn't want to make him feel that way. We all played a part in ending up where we did. Ryan and I were both to blame as well. Ryan for his antagonistic behavior and me for being selfish and pushing our dad away. I realize now that I absolutely needed a break from both of them, but to cast my dad aside forever instead of just trying to talk about it and find a solution was cruel and hurtful when he has shown me nothing but kindness and love from day one. And like I said, I never did tell him everything and how much it was affecting me. He thought it was just snippy comments here and there. I know why I pushed him away. I knew it then, even if I was too embarrassed to admit it to anyone. I was so scared that he would decide he didn't want me in his life. When I hit his precious baby boy, I thought that was just going to be the beginning of the downfall of my relationship with my dad. I guess I felt like I had to beat him to the punch in ending the relationship, because I convinced myself it would be easier if I was the one who walked away instead of being left behind. But he wasn't going to leave me behind because I wasn't perfect and I lost my cool. He showed me that in his calls and texts afterwards, but I let my fear get the best of me. Ryan admitted that he really did want to like me when we were supposed to meet, but when I got there he just couldn't. He said we have nothing in common because I'm an outgoing jock and he's just not. I told him that if nothing else we both love our dad and want him to be happy, and maybe that was enough common ground to start off with. I also told him I have all kinds of friends and that common interests aren't a necessity to get along with someone. At that point he said that he doesn't have real friends like mine. He doesn't have someone like Josh that he can rely on for anything. He doesn't have the kind of friends who will have his back the way mine did after that night. I did bring up that his friend reached out to me on Instagram on his behalf, but it didn't seem like he wanted to talk about that. He asked if he could be honest about something and told me that when he was on bed rest after his appendectomy that me and my friends were the only ones who showed up to see how he was doing and if he needed anything. The only ones who hung out with him while he was bored at home. All of his friends were too busy to even just drop by, and he invited a girl he had a crush on, but she told him she would only go if he bought her something cute to wear for him, which just instantly turned him off to her. I didn't really know what to say, so I just told him that sucks and he deserves someone who wants him for him and not gifts or his money. He said more that essentially boiled down to that he feels like he has friendships out of convenience and proximity, and that he doesn't see himself sticking with his friend group after high school ends. Finally, he told me what he had been working up to. His 17th birthday was in a couple days and our dad was going to make pizza for dinner in their special pizza oven they have in the backyard. He told Ryan he could invite a couple friends, but Ryan told me he'd rather have me there with them. He said I could even bring Josh if that made me feel more comfortable. He admitted it was selfish to ask, but that he doesn't want to be the reason our dad is sad all the time. I asked him the day and time and told him I would think about it. I made it clear to him that if I did decide to go, that I will not go back to fighting with him. I left that all behind when I walked out of their house the last time I was there. I told him that if I did go and he changed his mind after I was there, to just tell me and I would leave. It didn't have to be a fight or argument. He swore he wouldn't change his mind this time. At that point my mom called to ask where I was. I didn't even realize it, but I had been talking to Ryan for an hour past the end of my shift. So I told her I was on my way home. Ryan asked if we're supposed to shake hands or bump forearms. I told him I think I was just gonna go to my car tonight if that's okay. I wasn't really ready for physical contact with him yet. He said he hoped to see me in a couple days. As I was walking away, he called out to me to apologize again and to say that it was all his own shit that he had to deal with and that he's still dealing with. That really stuck with me, and I think that's what ultimately convinced me to go. Like, if he's seeing the same therapist we saw together, but whoever he's seeing must have really gotten through to him. I've seen Ryan manipulate our father's emotions many times. I know what his face looks like when he's just looking for sympathy. I know the inflection of his voice when he's putting on his poor me act. This wasn't it. He wasn't performing during our talk. Even though he was being open and honest, I could see that all of it was hard for him to do. He did his best to maintain eye contact even though he was showing his vulnerability. There were a few times I could hear the nervousness in his voice when he was struggling to get the words out. This wasn't Prince Ryan, the spoiled and angry rich boy I'd come to know in the last few months. It was just Ryan, a 16-year-old kid who messed up and was now swallowing his pride to try to make amends. I couldn't help but respect that. I told Ryan that I changed my mind and I was sorry about punching him, and I meant it. I guess seeing him show so much humility thawed me out a bit. I've always said that I knew Ryan wasn't a one-note asshole, and I could see the good in him when he interacted with other people. But this was the first time that goodness was directed towards me. I realized we're not going to get anywhere if I don't try to let go of the anger and hurt he caused me, and admit that I made mistakes too. We said goodnight to each other and I went home. Just to be clear, Ryan's birthday already passed. It was on Tuesday, so while I've always appreciated advice, it is not needed in this case as the event has already happened. I'm not trying to keep anyone in suspense, so I'll say here that there was no drama. It was not an act or trick by Ryan. The dinner went very well. I'll let you guys know how that went tomorrow, but I've got plans with my friends in a bit, so I can't write out everything at the moment. Update 13. There's a quote from a song I really like that says, "If it weren't for second chances, we'd all be alone." I guess with Ryan it would be closer to the 30-second chance, but the essence of the quote still applies. I wasn't actually alone, but I had lost a whole side of my family that I had just discovered. People that I didn't really want to lose or spend my life without knowing. I know it's just blood and shared DNA, but I still wanted to have a connection to my dad and grandparents. I'm also still open to having a biological brother somewhere down the line too if things continue to look up. After my talk with Ryan, I went home and told my mom what happened. She actually thought I was joking at first when I told her all the things Ryan said. She asked if I was sure he was being sincere, and I said I'm positive that he was. I went back and forth on whether or not to go. I weighed the pros and cons in my head. I'm not completely naive. I know Ryan's motives in inviting me were partly self-serving, but TBH, so were mine by the end of everything last month. In the beginning I was eager to meet Ryan and be his friend. But as time went on, it became more about trying to just be cordial solely because I didn't want to lose my dad. And even now it's not at all easy to just forget everything Ryan did. But I did want my dad back in my life. I thought about posting here the day after I talked with Ryan. But honestly, I didn't want anyone to give me advice. I don't mean to say you all haven't been helpful, because you have been so many times in the past. But when I really thought about it, I didn't want to be swayed one way or another about whether to go or not. I didn't want to be given any influence on how to approach things if I did go. I wanted it to be a genuine attempt between Ryan and myself. So in the end, I decided to go alone. Both my mom and Josh wanted to go, but I told them I needed to do this on my own. I promised my mom that I wasn't getting my hopes up, and if it went sideways I would come straight home, and that would be the end of it, and I would be okay. I know she still didn't want me to go, but I think it was fear of me getting hurt again over anything else. I got to the house a little early and knocked. Ryan answered the door. He actually looked happy to see me and said he was glad I made it. It's pretty funny because all I could think at the time was that his greeting was literally the nicest thing he had ever said to me. Before that, I'm pretty sure it was just hey without any nickname after it. I gave him a birthday card with a PlayStation gift card in it. I don't usually like giving gift cards as a gift because I feel like it's impersonal, but I was torn between not wanting to put too much effort in and not wanting to show up to a birthday celebration without a gift. I asked where our dad was and Ryan said he was at the store picking up ingredients for the pizzas. I've probably seen too many movies because the quiet, empty house and dad not being there did make me a bit uneasy. For just a second I was honestly a bit worried Ryan might have brought me there just to kill me. Faced with tears of joy, he asked if I wanted to play some games while we wait for dad. I told him sure, just as long as it's nothing competitive, so he put on a game where he and I were on the same team for once. It was a bit awkward being alone with him at first, but within a couple matches I got the hang of the game and we were fine. Conversation was minimal. He just mentioned what he did for his birthday with his mom and talked about how much better the pizza cooked in their oven is than regular pizza. I believe it's called a wood fire oven. Eventually our dad got home and yelled out for Ryan and asking if that was my car outside. He walked into the game room and we locked eyes. I had a whole speech planned out. I had talking points in my head for when he came home, but for some reason when I saw him all I could muster out was hi. I forgot everything else I wanted to say. He came up to me and hugged me, and honestly, it was the best hug of my life. He was trying not to cry and apologizing for everything and saying how happy he was to see me. He asked if I came to talk and I told him actually Ryan invited me to have dinner with them. He went over to hug Ryan and said thank you. Ryan said he was sorry to our dad for causing him so much pain, and that this had been his mistake to fix. They had their own moment before my dad brought me into their hug. He was so overjoyed. I wish everyone at least once in their life could feel what his face told me he felt in that moment. But I'm not gonna lie, as nice of a moment as it was, I was still a bit uncomfortable being so physically close to Ryan, so I made a joke about being promised pizza if I came, so we all went outside and it was a bit quiet at first, but within a short time the tension eased and we were having casual conversations and a nice meal. We even shared a few laughs. For the first time there was no fighting during dinner. We told him that we'd talked and I think he was really proud of both of us for that. He was so happy. Ryan's aunt and grandparents on his mom's side FaceTimed him to wish him a happy birthday, so he went inside to talk to them for a bit. While he was gone my dad and I finally got to talk. I told him how much it hurt that he never stood up for me. He looked ashamed and told me he was sorry and that he thought it was just small comments at dinner, which from his perspective is true. I never told him about any of the private moments between Ryan and I, and I'm sure Ryan would not have told him anything either. He said that he thought that I was brushing off those comments and he didn't know how badly it was affecting me, but that no matter what he should have protected me. He assured me from now on no one gets a free pass to disrespect me in front of him, not even Ryan. I asked him why he never gave Ryan actual punishment. He told me that he could tell me his reasoning, but that he didn't want me to think he was making an excuse because he knows there is no excuse for his failure. He said when he and Ryan's mom told Ryan that they were getting a divorce, he didn't handle it well at all. He accused them of not loving him and breaking their family up. It broke our dad's heart, so he started overcompensating by showering Ryan with affection and leniency when he acted out. He said he got so used to treating Ryan a certain way that it just became normal and natural to him. He reiterated that it's not an excuse and he should have learned a lot quicker that he now has 2 boys and Ryan won't be given leniency for his bad behavior anymore. He asked me for just one more chance to show me that he's changed. I'm really hoping he never has to prove it, at least with Ryan. But of course I told him I would give him that chance. This was our first fight, and while I feel I was completely justified in walking away when I did, it didn't have to be forever like I thought. If Ryan and our dad are both willing to admit their mistakes and try to be better, why wouldn't I give it another shot? My dad made me promise him that I wouldn't hide my feelings from him and that I would tell him if I wasn't okay. His reasoning was that it's not my job to worry about him or protect his feelings. It's his job to worry about and protect me. He said that I'm a strong young man and that he knows I can handle a lot, but that I don't always have to try to be an adult about everything, and that it was okay to just let myself be a kid for a few more years. Hearing him say that got to me. I was never an emotional person before all this. After my adoptive dad died, I sort of became numb to emotional pain. It was like nothing could hurt more than that, so as I got older I just started pushing all my feelings aside and prioritizing logic over emotion. But I think I inherited my bio dad's sensitivity gene, and meeting him somehow activated it, because I've cried more times in the past 4 months than I have since I was a child. But I'm no longer embarrassed about that because it feels so liberating to not keep all the pain bottled up anymore. When it was time for me to leave, they both walked me to my car. Our dad promised both of us that he wouldn't try to force us to hang out, not even just for a weekly dinner. He said we could tell him if we were ready to do any group activities, and we didn't have to be ready at the same time. We could each tell him separately if we reached that point. I told our dad that while I'm willing to open the door again, that I'm not going to be driving to see him every week. My focus is going to be on school until the school year is over. Once summer hits, I'll have a lot more free time and we can see about spending more time together. He understood and agreed. I wished Ryan a happy birthday again. He thanked me for the card and for coming. He asked if we could start over. I said yes, and I offered him a forearm bump which he accepted, and then I left. I won't lie, I'm still incredibly nervous that this shift in Ryan's behavior won't last. I feel bad for saying it, but even though I am serious about starting with a clean slate, it is really hard to look at him and not remember all the things he said and did. I think that's what's keeping me from being over the moon like I have been in the past. Mentally, I'm not the same person I was 4 months ago. I lost that part of me that was excited to have a dad and brother. But I'm cautiously optimistic that maybe things will work out. My fears and lack of excitement are something I have to deal with on my own. I do still want this to work, and the vibe with both of them really felt a lot lighter, so I'm willing to give them a second chance. Ryan has been texting me the past few days, so I guess things are looking up. He even sent me a meme about us being children of a lawyer, so I think he's starting to finally see me as a brother. It's hard to explain over text, but I really do see a change in him. Well, it's not even a change, honestly. It's more of him just letting go of his anger. A few months ago I said I wanted to meet the person he is to everyone else. I think I'm finally starting to get to see that person when we talk. Forgiveness is supposed to be hard, but in this situation Ryan and our dad are making it easier than it probably should be. I had given up and resigned myself to a life without my father or bio brother, but now we may just be on our way to a better outcome because Ryan took the first step to make amends. Maybe every year really does make us not just older, but wiser too. Maybe even a little kinder. It was his birthday. He could have asked our dad for anything he wanted, and I know he would have gotten it. Instead, he chose to give me and our dad a gift in the form of a second chance at a father-son relationship. So I think we've hit the end of the road for now. I know I'm a hypocrite because I've said that about 3 times now, but I really do need to take a step back and just live my life for a little bit. As I said above, I'm focusing on trying to finish off the school year strong. I don't plan on driving to the city for any visits anytime soon. My dad does want to have a longer talk in person, just the two of us, which I plan on doing. But even though I'm nervous to talk to him, I'm sure that's gonna be fine. I think for right now I'm gonna keep my interactions with both of them mostly, if not completely, limited to text messaging. That seems to be working out for right now. One final note, because things seem to be heading in a more positive direction, I am worried again that Ryan may see my posts someday. I think it's unlikely, but I don't want it to undo any progress we may make, so I'm making a promise to myself right now that if things continue to go well between us for the next couple of months, then I will tell him about all of this the first week of July. I just don't want any of this to come back and bite me in the ass someday. I'd rather he hear it directly from me instead of being blindsided. I hope you all have an incredible Easter if you celebrate it, and thanks again for every word of advice, support, and for sharing your own experiences with me. Maybe you'll hear from me again someday. For now, I'm just gonna take life as it comes and deal with it, ideally as a team with my family, both the biological and chosen members of that family. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Update 14. Hey everyone, hope you've all been well. I know it's been a while since my last post. The past 3 months just flew by. I actually wanted to update around mid-June, but I got a new phone and couldn't remember the password for this account. I was at my friend Josh's house yesterday and I saw something in his room and remembered I had used it as the password, so I was able to get back into this account. I'm not sure if many people are still interested, but if so, I can give a not at all quick update on how things are going. If you're reading this hoping for more drama, I'm glad to disappoint, as you'll find none of that here. If I had to summarize things in one word, great. In 2 words, really great. Thankfully, I'm not here to report on anything bad. There was definitely an adjustment period and some difficult talks all around, but we worked through it and we're all in a much better place now. Thought I'd give you guys an update on how everyone is doing and some stuff that's happened since my last post. Ryan. Remember when I said I was worried Ryan's change of heart wouldn't last? I'm happy to confirm that was not the case. He and I slowly talked over text. He was a bit upset early on because he said he was always the one texting me and I never texted him unless I was replying to him. That's true. I was still skeptical of him, but again, that was my own issue to work out. I made more of an effort to reach out to him after that. We then moved to gaming together online. It was mainly just the two of us, but there were times where we played with some of my friends, which I think really helped ease him back into my social circle. When the school year ended, he started coming here to our town a lot to hang out with us. Sometimes we all go to the city and hang out at his house. Unfortunately, the road between my town and his city is mostly just one long stretch of road, so we can't really meet halfway. However, he's here a couple times every week and in our group chat, so we all talk constantly. My friends are now his friends too. I mentioned above that I wanted to update around mid-June. The reason for that is because that's when I finally told Ryan about my posts. I had given myself a deadline of the first week of July, but before that happened we got into a silly argument about something stupid and didn't talk to each other for 2 days. I know that's not a long time, but we went from talking every day to complete radio silence. On the 3rd day he sent me a message asking are we still brothers, which just really made me realize how dumb our fight was, and it wasn't worth staying mad over, especially when the argument had nothing to do with either of us personally. We'd never really acknowledged each other as brothers out loud before he said that. I realized then that I couldn't keep meeting up with him, laughing and joking with him when I knew my unkind words about him were out there on the internet, and there was a chance that he might stumble upon them someday. So one day I went over to his house while our dad was at work. I had put all of my posts on a flash drive because I didn't want him to read the harsh comments about him. I told him the truth, that the only thing I removed was one line that I felt should stay between me and our dad. I know that may disappoint some of you, as a few people said I should be completely honest and not edit the posts, but I really feel like that would be volunteering hurtful information for no reason, and I'm sure it's something my dad would never want Ryan to know. I was terrified that I was about to ruin everything we'd built up to that point. I let him know it was all in the past and I didn't feel that way anymore. I was in a bad place emotionally at the time. I promised him my last 2 posts were after we talked and much more positive. He asked if he could read those ones, so he read the we talked and second chances posts by himself while I was panic texting a few friends in the next room. He came back and handed me the flash drive. He did thank me for being honest and the nice things I said about him being genuine in his remorse, but he said he'd rather leave the rest in the past. He reminded me he said a lot of bad things to me and had made up lies about me to other people. He did make me swear that I wasn't acting or just being his friend for our dad's sake, which I did swear to because I do genuinely consider him a friend now. He swore the same, and after that we just ended up watching a movie until our dad came home. We've been back to normal ever since. I did ask if he was okay with me posting an update here, and he jokingly said it was only okay as long as I lied, and told you guys that he now spends all his free time volunteering at homeless shelters. But in all seriousness, he's doing a lot better. At the beginning of the year I never thought that I would say it, but he's my brother. I claim him and he claims me as such. I even have a nickname for him. I've recently started calling him RYFI because he's a huge techie, gamer guy. He says it's a stupid name, but he also told our friends that only I'm allowed to call him that when they tried to make it a group thing. I think he secretly likes it. I think the best indication of showing how far we've come in the last few months is that we can call each other names like asshole or say fuck you to each other knowing it's just jokes. Dad, 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 dad. That man has the patience of a saint. So we had our talk shortly after my last post. I somehow gathered up the strength to be honest with him about everything I went through from January to mid-March. I did make him promise not to punish Ryan and to keep it all between us, which he did. After hearing everything I had to say, he understood why I walked away when I did. I told him about my fears that he would decide I'm too much of a headache and just drop me from his life. He actually seemed really hurt that I felt that way. He assured me roughly 26 times that our relationship is forever and there's nothing I could ever say or do that would make him stop loving me. Since then things are mostly good. I hate to admit it, but for some reason I'm holding on to some anger. I'm not really sure why, but sometimes I get irritated at him over the dumbest, smallest things. These are things he shouldn't feel guilty or bad about, and yet I still get mad at him. And he's so ridiculously patient with me when realistically no one could blame him if he told me to just get over it or stop making a big deal out of nothing. He just lets me berate him and then calmly tries to talk to me to find out what I'm really mad about. And I never have an answer for him because I just don't know. It got to the point where recently my mom had to sit me down and tell me that I have to know I'm being incredibly unfair to my dad when I get mad at him over little things that she knows I don't really care about. I don't deserve a dad like him, honestly. It's weird because I've grown up seeing all my friends' dads as the tough love, man up, classic dad, so that's what I expected him to be once I really got to know him. But my dad is almost like two different people. When he's out in public or at work he's very assertive, but at the same time he's still charismatic and friendly. I've noticed that he's the kind of person that people seem to gravitate towards. He's not afraid to speak up and call people out on their BS. But with me, Ryan, and my mom, he's a lot more patient and understanding. He never yells. He always listens when me or Ryan are mad at him about something, even if he has to be firm that his answer is still ultimately not what we want to hear. I honestly thought he was putting on an act for me and my mom because it kind of blows my mind how patient he can be with us. But it's been long enough that I now know that that's just who he is when it comes to the people he cares about. It just makes me feel worse when I get mad at him over stupid stuff. I recently decided to see Ryan's old therapist. Ryan sold me on the idea because he told me it helped him figure out the cause of his anger and how to get past it. So I'm hoping she can work some magic and fix whatever is wrong with my brain so I won't be such a dick to my dad. Other than those moments, my dad and I are great. We see each other a lot now that summer is here. He's here every week. Sometimes we do things with Ryan. Sometimes with Ryan and my mom. But a good amount of the time it's just me and him. He took me on a weekend trip, just the two of us recently, which I think really helped us bond even though nothing big happened. The only bad thing about us getting closer is I can't play harmless pranks on him anymore. I used to be able to mess with him a lot in the beginning of summer. One time I went over to my dad's house for dinner, and he made lobster and crab cakes, so I pretended like I was allergic to shellfish and couldn't eat anything he made. I actually thought he knew I was lying because he said he had asked my mom about food allergies months ago, and she never mentioned shellfish. Luckily, he didn't catch on. I did tell him the truth shortly after because he started looking in his cupboards to make something else, so I started to feel bad. Another night I texted my mom that my dad fed me cereal, and she called him right away cause she was pissed thinking that he made me drive an hour just to eat cereal for dinner. My dad was so confused cause he had actually made a whole Italian meal, and they both ended up laughing and jokingly grounding me when they realized I was messing with them. There were a few more pranks I played, but my dad knows when I'm lying now, so I can't get away with it anymore. As a whole, things are good between us and I see him and Ryan a lot more. My dad owns his own law firm with his business partner, so he can leave work or choose to work from home almost whenever he wants. He's made the drive to my town at least 2 times a week, usually more, so we see each other a lot more than I was expecting. But it is summer, so I imagine it'll slow down once school starts again. Mom continues to be the best. I actually think the biggest adjustment out of all of us has been hers in really starting to understand she's not my only parent anymore. It's been just me and my mom for so long, and now with my dad added and things are a bit different. For the 4th of July weekend I went to Josh's cousin's house for the night. We were just gonna do fireworks and hang out. Just a small group of us, but Josh's cousin is 21 and has his own house with his girlfriend, so he would be the oldest one there. When me and my mom were talking about it, my dad asked her, "You're not really letting him go, are you?" He was confused as if that was completely unacceptable. Now that was an awkward moment. Me, Josh, and Ryan noped right out of there to let them talk. My mom has known Josh's family for years, so she knows his cousin and his cousin's GF are people she can trust to let us stay the night at their place and nothing bad will happen. My dad, on the other hand, does not know them, and he thought it was crazy to let me go somewhere where the chaperones are 2 21-year-olds. We don't really need chaperones, but I can understand where he was coming from. It's really weird for both me and my mom that there's now someone else involved in making decisions about my life. My dad has eased our financial situation significantly. Just to be clear, I'm not saying he showed up and pulled us out of poverty or anything. My mom and I were doing fine. I didn't have to get a job when I turned 16. I did that because I wanted to make my own money and pay for my own car so my mom didn't have to. My dad, however, insisted on paying off the rest of my car and has since taken over my insurance payments. And it's not just the financial help, he's always there when I want to talk. Like I said above, he's patient and understanding even when I'm acting like a dumbass. My mom says he's earned the right to have a say in things and that his opinion holds some weight. I agree. I can't just accept his money and love and not let him be an actual dad. I won't lie, I was actually really annoyed that it went from a done deal to me possibly not being able to go if my parents didn't agree on it. But I can tell it means something to my dad to be able to have a say in things. I don't know how to put it into words exactly, but I can just tell he was satisfied. Not because he's controlling, but he's mentioned a few times that he hates that he didn't get to be a part of my childhood. I think him having a say in what I'm allowed to do makes him feel more like a parent to me, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. I tend to do that. Thankfully, they agreed to still let me go on the condition that I had to answer any FaceTime calls, and if I missed a call and didn't call back in 10 minutes, I was grounded. Basically, my dad was worried that I was gonna be talked into drinking or smoking by Josh's cousin and the cousin's GF. My mom only called me once, but my dad FaceTimed me 6 times throughout the night. It was a bit much, but he had his reasons for being concerned. There was also one moment where my mom was a bit upset about my growing relationship with my dad. I had asked my dad for advice about a girl that I wanted to ask out. I never told my mom about her, but my dad did, which made her a little sad that she didn't hear about it from me. I explained to her that there's just some things that I feel more comfortable talking to my dad about it. I wanted my dad's advice because he is a complete gentleman. I've seen him treat every woman he talks to with nothing but respect. I've never heard him say a single bad thing about his ex-wife. He treats my mom like he's been in love with her all his life. I guess I should also mention that my parents have been dating for about a month now. While I was initially afraid of all the drama that would bring, it's thankfully been a non-issue. They handled it completely right in my opinion. I've known my dad has had a crush on my mom since his birthday party in February. I didn't ask, but I believe my mom started developing feelings for him in May after his Mother's Day gift to her. They sat me and Ryan down last month and told us that they had feelings for each other and wanted to see where it would go, but they promised they wouldn't pursue it if both of us weren't on board. This was only 5 days after I came clean about my online posts to Ryan. So they didn't know it, but I was panicking thinking that it was horrible timing. They told us to take a few days to think about it and talk to each other about it. They didn't bring it up again until we were ready to talk about it. Ryan and I did discuss it. I told him the truth, that it didn't bother me, but I let him know that I would completely understand if he wasn't comfortable, and if he didn't want them to date we could just tell them that we both were against it so he didn't have to feel the weight of being the one to say no. He wasn't sure how he felt at the time, so he took a couple days to think about it. He told me our dad talked to him at home and said he can be honest if it was too much. My mom had basically the same talk with me at our house. After that, Ryan told me that he likes my mom and he would rather our dad be with her than some random lady who tries too hard like his last girlfriend. Thankfully, my parents don't make a show of their relationship. They pretty much just go on date nights, and in front of us they keep it tame with simple hugs and kisses to greet and see each other off. It's definitely weird seeing my parents kiss, but my dad treats my mom a lot better than any of her other boyfriends have, and they both make each other happy. Ryan and I have begun to joke with them about their relationship, so we're just starting to get out of the awkward phase and into it just being our new normal. Josh, last but certainly not least, Josh has been busy this summer. He's working for his dad and playing in a soccer league. Usually at least one of our friends will be at his games to support him, but there's been a couple times where no one in our friend group could go, so once my mom and dad went with Josh's mom, and the other time Ryan and our dad went, which I thought was really cool of them. Ryan and Josh talked the first time that Ryan hung out with us in person. It wasn't a big moment at all. Ryan just apologized for what he said at our grandparents' house. Josh said he knows Ryan wasn't aware of his grandpa's death and apologized to Ryan for trying to mangle face. We all laughed at that and that was it. We've all been cool since then. Josh and my friends did have some issues when I would hang out with Ryan. Sometimes Ryan and I would hang out one-on-one while my friends did their own thing. They would say that we could all just hang out, but I think it's important that Ryan and I hang out by ourselves every once in a while. Some of my friends said I was choosing Ryan over them, which isn't the case. I see my friends almost every day. Ryan lives an hour away, so I see him a few times a week, and I don't think it's unreasonable that every once in a while we hang out, just the two of us. Josh and I got into an argument a couple months ago when Ryan first started coming here. He got pissed one day when he asked if we could hang out, and I told him I couldn't because I was going to the city to have lunch with my dad and Ryan, and then I had to work that night. He accused me of changing and replacing my mom and friends with my dad and Ryan. It came out of nowhere, and it was really unlike Josh to get so annoyed over something so small. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to write what happened next on Reddit, but that night Josh did something really dumb and reckless. After that, he ended up calling my dad to pick him up because he was in the city and my dad was the closest adult he knew. My dad had to call Josh's parents to come get him. It was a whole thing. I found out the next day that he was having problems at home with his parents, and he'd just found out his girlfriend was talking to another guy. He was just having a terrible day and said he felt like he had no one to talk to. When he found out I couldn't be there to talk to him, he took his anger out on me. I felt horrible because he's always there for me when I need to vent, especially when I had endless problems with Ryan. Josh is the kind of person that won't tell you something is wrong or that he needs help unless you're looking at him in the face, and he can't hide his emotions. I should have known something was up when he asked me to bail on my lunch plans with my dad and brother. I would have if I had known what was going on, and he knows that. Either way, it all worked out, and he did apologize for what he said to me. I don't hold it against him because I know he didn't mean it, and he's not someone who acts like that at all normally. He and Ryan are also good, and no other arguments have been brought up since then. Weirdly enough, that situation caused my dad and Josh's dad to become friends, and now they do business together too. It's strange how quickly and how much Ryan and my dad have become incorporated in my life now. I don't mind it, but it's crazy how much different my life is now compared to 7.5 months ago. Not only that, but how much just two people can switch up the dynamics of several relationships. Aside from that, Josh is doing just fine. There's not really much to tell other than he's keeping himself busy this summer. As for me, I'm taking a creative writing course with my friend Bree. All of your comments about my writing made me curious about trying my hand at actual writing. The course has been really fun and I feel like I learned a lot. I've got 2 weeks left in it. I've tried writing fiction stuff but it's really hard. When I'm writing about stuff going on in my own life I just word vomit and don't shut up. But trying to create a story from scratch is difficult. I feel like I have a lot of good ideas but I sort of finish the story in my head and never get it written down on paper. I might not be cut out for writing. Also, I know a lot of people were wondering about my grandparents. Me, my dad, and Ryan went to visit them a couple weeks ago. It went significantly better than the last visit. Now that Ryan and I get along, there were no fights or arguments. We all had a great time and my grandpa told me he was so happy to see me and Ryan getting along now. At one point my grandparents asked about college and I told them a few of the universities I was considering applying to. They told me to apply for any scholarships I want but that they would take care of the rest. I'm still in disbelief. I knew this family was well off but I didn't know they were put together a 4-year college tuition fund in a year and a half kind of well off. I got emotional because I couldn't believe that level of kindness. These people owe me nothing. I haven't done anything for them. I offered to come clean their house and yard on weekends if I go to the university I'm considering that's 30 minutes away from their home. They just laughed and told me they would love if I came to visit when I can, but I didn't have to pay them back. They said it was just making up for all the Christmas and birthday gifts they didn't get me. They are incredibly generous and I'm extremely grateful and lucky to have them as my grandparents. I guess that's all there is to tell for right now. I hope you guys have all been having a great summer. You can't even imagine how happy I am to be able to give nothing but good news in this post. All the turmoil from the beginning of the year seems to be becoming more and more of a distant memory every day. Thanks for reading. Take care of yourselves and the ones you love. Update 15. I started therapy about a month and a half ago. I didn't really know what I wanted out of it if I'm being honest. I knew that I was getting upset about a lot of things my dad said and did. I knew it was something that I needed to work on. I got mad at him over really stupid things, like he would call Ryan about 50 nicknames, similar to the way Ryan used to talk to me, except of course none of my dad's nicknames for Ryan were negative. They all had a story attached. I got to hear about how he calls Ryan Cricket because Ryan was such a loud hyper child. I know the story of why Ryan is sometimes called Rye Guy. I can recite the origin stories of the names Waterworks, Game Time, and Nate among several others. Some of the stories are admittedly funny and entertaining. I know the ABCs of Ryan and it makes me incredibly jealous. I'm not ignorant to that fact. I even admitted that to Ryan months ago. And just to be clear, I have not and will not take it out on Ryan. He and I are good. We've had a few disagreements and we're not best friends or anything, but we are friends. I know it's not his fault that he has a good relationship with our dad and I would never try to make either of them feel guilty for that. It's a me problem. But it's so frustrating to have to hear all these stories about their relationship. Even though I'm positive that neither of them mean for it to be, to me it's like a constant hey, did you know we have years of wonderful memories together? Reminder, my attitude with my dad sort of came to a head when he tried to give me the talk because I've been spending more time alone with my girlfriend. I don't want to go into a bunch of details about my romantic life, but put simply, he's a year late on having that talk with me. I had that talk with my mom when I got my first serious girlfriend at 16. I'm careful. I want to go to college, graduate, and live my own life first. I don't want to be a dad until I'm 30, if ever. My brain is so screwed up with my own issues and history regarding my own 2 dads that I'd probably be a terrible father and mess that hypothetical kid up more than I am tbh. Anyway, he just kept wanting to talk about it. He wanted to lecture me on the importance of proper condom usage and how he'd provide them for me, no questions asked. He wasn't being weird about it or anything. It was basically the same talk my mom gave me, which might have been why it made me so annoyed. Because I felt like I was retreading old ground. Then I said it. I said something mean and uncalled for. He was just trying to help me stay on course with my life plan. I should have just nodded and let him give his speech. But I had to open my big mouth and make a smart-ass comment. It worked. It got him to stop. But it also hurt his feelings to the point where he just left the condoms and walked out. I hated myself. I still hate myself for saying it. I apologized and he forgave me. But that was when I knew that I needed to get into therapy. I didn't want to keep treating him like that. I thought that I was being too sensitive, and in a way I probably am. But my therapist was able to help me realize why all this stuff bothered me so much. It's a big part of the reason that I'm so angry with my dad. I know the story. I know that he genuinely didn't know about me, and I believe him 100% when he says he would have been involved in my life if he had known about me. I thought that my issue was that he wasn't what I expected a father to be. I said in my last post that I had an image in my head of what a father is and he didn't really fit it. It wasn't until my therapist asked me to put aside what I thought a father is supposed to be and tell her what kind of a father I wanted him to be that I had a realization. I like who my dad is. I don't want him to be different. I like that I don't have to worry about him pressuring me to be a certain kind of man. I like that I feel comfortable talking to him about anything, sometimes more comfortable than talking to my mom if I'm being honest. I don't want him to be the stereotypical normal father that I see in my friends' dads. What I realized is that my issue was never that he wasn't what I expected. It's that the relationship itself isn't what I expected. He and I don't have a normal father-son relationship. We don't even have a normal parent-child relationship. And we never will. We'll never have memories of each other from my childhood. When I think of my mom, I think of all the times she held me when I cried, took care of me when I was sick, taught me how to talk to people, handle difficult situations, and how to treat others with respect. Things that matter, things that made me who I am now. The fact is that I've already grown up. That's not to say that I have all the answers in life, because I know I definitely don't. But what is there left for my dad to teach me? How to file taxes? I can't even think of a second option. I'm sure there are things he can teach me about being an adult, but the reality is that none of those will carry the same weight as my memories of my mom raising me. It's no fault of his own, I know that, but it is the way things are, and that just sucks. We have bonded. I do feel a connection with him. I felt it the first time he hugged me, and I do love him. I know that he loves me too, but I don't love him at the same level that I love my mom. And I'm sure even if he'd never admit it that he doesn't love me at the same level he loves Ryan. Most parents say they love all their kids equally, and maybe that's true for those that raise their kids from birth. But how can a grown child you've known for 9 months compare to the kid you raised for 17 years? It's a hard pill to swallow. My therapist is suggesting my dad come in for one of my sessions. She says I need to be honest with him and tell him how I feel about our relationship. That should be completely terrifying. Not exactly looking forward to that. And I know people have commented before that I come off detached and emotionless in my posts. I want to assure you that I'm not a robot. I do have emotions. I just try to keep my online posts neutral. In real life, I'm obnoxious in text messages with emojis to get my emotions and the tone of my message across accurately. Emoji use just isn't the norm here on Reddit, so I just like to lay out the facts. In regards to actual update stuff, there's not really much to tell. I did meet Ryan's mom, officially. I had seen her from afar once before at an event but never spoke to her directly. That changed last week. Ryan had been coming here to my town a lot after school to hang out with us. I guess he neglected his studies and ended up doing bad on his first physics test. His mom was not happy. He didn't show up here for a few days and told his mom he'd already studied and learned the class material and would do better on his next test. Well, his mom is a teacher, so she gave him a makeup test. I'm not sure if she made the test herself or if she got a test from one of the teachers at her school, or from his actual physics teacher. Either way, Ryan aced the test and proved to his mom that he wasn't lying about studying what he missed before. I never thought he was stupid, but I definitely think he doesn't apply himself as well as he could. She still said she didn't like that he was coming here so much during the week. He was coming here usually 2 times a week after school, and on weekends when he wasn't at his mom's house. Sometimes he'd eat dinner here with our dad, and I know he was doing his homework here, but I guess he wasn't doing it right, or maybe just rushing it. So my dad said that she wanted to meet me and my mom since he's spending so much time here. My dad had no problem with it, but Ryan was really nervous, which was making me nervous. My dad reassured me that Ryan's mom is a reasonable person, and that Ryan was just nervous because he wanted his mom to like us, so she would have no problem with him coming here. She came for dinner on Friday. She and I shook hands, and after that she kinda stared at me, then looked at my dad and said I really do look just like he used to. That was all she said to me at first. We ate dinner and it was pretty normal. They were just exchanging work stories mostly, and Ryan and I were kind of having our own conversation. They brought us into the conversation a few times, but never really brought up Ryan's grades or visits. After dinner she came and sat with me on the living room couch and asked me if Ryan was happy. The question caught me off guard because I was expecting her to grill me about what he does when he's here and what our friends are like. I told her the truth, which is that I do think he's happy. When I met him he was very angry and closed off. I'm not sure how much of that was simply because of the fact that I popped up in his life and how much was already there before. But he does seem to be in a much better place than he was at the beginning of the year. She told me that she appreciates me inviting him to hang out with us, but that she'd appreciate if I could ease up on the after-school invites unless it's an important event. She wanted him to just come on the weekends and focus on school during the week. I wanted to tell her that I don't even invite or see him half the time that he's here. He hangs out more with Austin and Trevor when he comes. Sometimes I only see him for about 15 minutes when he stops by to say hi to me and my mom before heading home to go eat dinner with our dad. Sometimes I don't even know he's here unless he or one of our friends tell me or post it online.